As men, we just lead ourselves. We
Yeah.
lead ourselves well, naturally, everyone else tends to follow.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Venus and Mars podcast. You've got your host, Anya Shack here. And today we're going to talk about something that I've been fascinated by for years, and it's the term No Fap. Okay. And we'll get into why I'm fascinated by it and what this all means. But I'm sure many of you have heard the term. You've been seeing it over the past few years. I've been seeing it pick up. And for me, I've just wanted to understand what this is and why so many men are getting themselves involved with it. And I'm just so excited to have this conversation because I have with me the man who's known as the soldier of semen retention here. And so they call him an expert. He's going to dive into everything there is to know about semen retention, or no FAP, and why we should know about it. He actually ran for public office in the 2021 Canadian election. And through that, his work has been featured on Vice News, CBC. He's been on the Howard Stern Show, and so many more. So I'm very excited to welcome Nakula Das.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity. And to talk about No Fap. Can I tell a story right away, or should I be quiet?
Yes. Yes, please. See, his energy is already infectious. I love
it. So I was at my parents' house, right? And I'm explaining to my parents what No Fap is. And so, like, my parents are like, okay, yeah, my dad's like, that's not something I like, wasn't a problem growing up, in my era, this type of thing. But like, well, why FAP? Like FAP. And then my dad goes, it must be because of the sound. And I was like, yeah, it's like FAP, 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 FAP. And so that's anyway, so we just had a great laugh. And actually, my wife had caught a little bit of on camera, like because she thought we were just cracking up, explaining to my parents, what do I do for a living? Like, it's the strangest conversation, right? It's like, well, what does he do for a living? My mom's like, to my aunts and my uncles, it's like, well, like, you're just gonna have to ask him if you get the opportunity.
This is amazing, because I was actually with my parents last week and I was telling them like who I have in the lineup coming up, and I got to you and I was just like, I'm just going to tell you about it another time. I can't talk about it right now. I couldn't figure it out.
It's so strange, right? It's like, even myself.
Yeah.
When somebody that I don't like has met me completely out of context, right? Like in the grocery store, right? And they're like, so what do you do for a living? Right. And depending on my mood, depending how much I want to like have fun is what I will tell them, all the way from as like, if I just want to get out of there, right, and just like not make a shock, I'll just be like, you know what, I'm a men's coach, I help men quit porn. Okay,
totally.
And most people are like, that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
That's
what a great work you do. But then if I really want to have fun with them, I'm like, well, I help men last as long as they want in the bedroom to give their woman multiple orgasms. Woo! And then depending on the woman, that she might be like, okay, so like, can you tell me more about that? Or I could be like, I actually help people who are interested in connecting with, God, right? I got my God Loves You shirt on. Yep. People who are really wanting to connect in a spiritual way. I'm like, I help them relate why religions and spiritual teachings seem to be anti-sex. Right? So depending on who I'm talking to and how much I want to, talk about it in that very moment. If I just want to like get to the gym, I'll just be like, you know what, I'm a men's coach. And most people have no idea what they mean. And they'll be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Totally.
Nice. Yeah.
It's wild to me that this movement is synonymous with no sex, which boggles my mind, because when you talk about things, and I'm so excited to get into this, I'm like already ahead of myself, but you talk about sexual alchemy and it's this very sacred experience. So we'll get to that. But just before, okay, so I was Googling you a little bit because you did run for this Canadian election, and there are all these articles about you. And they just say that you're a misogynist and that No Fap is like this anti-science, anti-climate, like alt-right fascist movement, and that you're fascist. Like, what is up with this? Like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, it's so politically, okay, so NoFap is interesting
Okay.
because it starts to tap into a larger picture.
Okay.
So let's say the surface of NoFap and the surface of semen retention and the surface of guys like waking up to their own sexual nature and power is a response to the attack on masculinity, the blatant, like, calling masculinity toxic but
Yeah.
never acknowledging a feminine toxic, I'm never acknowledging that, the blatant, like, I just heard one thing of, like, going to the gym is toxic masculinity, and I'm like, going to the gym has been one of the best things that I've done in my life. Like,
Yeah.
getting serious about working out has been such a mental boost in my
Yeah.
life that I'm like, this is crazy, right? And so there's kind of a blatant attack on masculinity, but it's not so blatant because it's kind of like been normalized
Yeah.
over time and weaved into society quite eloquently over time.
Yeah.
And so NoFap is nature's response to that. It's the universe balancing itself out, going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Men and women, masculine and feminine energy are both required for any type of creation or evolution to happen. So, on a physical level, a man and a woman are required to have a baby. There's no other way. There's no debate about that.
Yep.
Anybody who's debating that is part of a political agenda.
Yep.
And the political agenda is to confuse, divide, and break up the family core. Now, this, of course, to some people are going to be like, oh, conspiracy theory and all
Totally.
this stuff. I'm like, no, just do a little bit of history. First of all, I'll recommend a couple books to understand
Sounds good.
political and war tactics. The Art of War by Sun Tzu starts off, all war is deception.
Yep.
If you think we don't live in an age where people are still waking up like Pinky and the Brain, like, hey, what are you going to do today? I'm going to rule the world. Right? If you don't know Pinky and the Brain, I just dated myself, by the way. Yeah. If anybody's like, what, Pinky and the Brain? What's he talking about?
I remember that. I
Google
remember
it.
it.
It's one of
Yeah.
the best cartoons ever, I
Yeah.
swear. Right. So
Totally.
anyways, there's always been, the Game of Thrones is always being played. But for 99.9% of us, we're not playing that game. We're not born into those families. We're not born into that aspect of society. So we're playing our game, right? But what ends up happening is when that game gets really intense, it spills over into everybody's lives very deeply. It's always there. We're always in these constructs that very elite and families that are extremely rich and powerful are setting up. And I'm not
Yep.
saying that is a bad thing. Such is nature's way. Someone's got to be king, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. I feel that.
Right? Every society, from the ants to the bees there is a hierarchy. So this rhetoric about there's no hierarchy is crazy. I remember I was speaking at a rally in my hometown in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, and the main newspaper here is the Telegraph Journal. So the news reporter comes up to me and gives an interview to me after the rally, and then he goes, "Can I talk to you off the record?" Absolutely. He said, "How could you be standing here saying like communism is bad and these things that are happening? This is going to create such a nice society where everybody's going to be even."
Ooh.
All right. So I said to him, I said, okay, and this is like 18, 19 journalist, fresh out of indoctrination college.
Yeah.
And he's like, right, he's coming. And so he's like legitimately off the record, like basically going, how could you stand here and basically bash the way the country and the West is going?
Yeah.
And I said, do you have a boss? He said, yeah. I said, do you believe that so you have a hierarchy system to make your operation work?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I said, the same people that are telling you that there's no hierarchy are the same people who are at the top of the hierarchy.
For sure. Yeah.
And one of the ways that you take over a nation or you change the ways of a culture or nation is you move population and you change the infrastructure of that nation. And another way you want to do that is you break up the family core.
Yeah.
Because the family core keeps communities together. See, when families are strong, then there is less need for government or big systems.
Absolutely.
When the family core is weak and everybody is an individual and there is no sense of family, which not only doesn't create a physical strength, but it creates a mental and an emotional and spiritual strength. It's you know, some say, wow, Nakula, you're really confident or you're really brave. What's your why? I said, I'll tell you why. I have a mother and a father who love me. And so I've grown up with such good, solid foundations that I have such a confidence and safety about who I am and where I'm at. You don't have that if you grow up in a shitty family. But you can get it. But that's what is happening when you take fathers out the equation, when you take men out the equation, you essentially get an entire population that is lost, lacks discipline and the masculine qualities, focus, hard work, prosperity, excellence. These are all masculine qualities or supposed to be held up by the men of society. So what political powers do to weaken societies over time is they attack the masculinity. Now, there's many different ways that you can attack masculinity. And one of them, and the most basic way, is to get men to castrate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This is where No Fap is. The movement of No Fap is born as a attack back on this. Okay.
I love this.
You want men to basically, I say you, I'm talking to, there are people out there,
yes,
that would like to weaken Western world and countries.
Yep.
And the one way that they are doing it is they are flooding us with easy access to pornography. Now you have to understand this. American troops did the same thing to Nazi troops. They would drop pamphlets of naked women and pornography, because when we have to be brutally honest. We know when we are either sex craved, like all I could think about is sex, there's nothing on our mind. It's also when you do the stupidest shit that after, as soon as you bust a nut, you're like, okay, how the fuck do I get out of here?
This is amazing. Thank you for everything. I'm gonna interject.
Come and stop me because I could just rant.
First of all, I love all of your passion. It's awesome. And I love all that you know about just politics in general and how you got so excited about making a change even in your community. I think that's awesome. I think what you're saying about the attack on the family unit is huge. And I loved what you said before about this idea of even going to the gym is toxic masculinity. And just to hear that, it's like women are saying that, and then secretly they're watching 300 in their bedrooms and just wishing that they had a man like that in their lives. Yeah. So this is just so true. And I've heard so many women tell me these things in private. And so I love what you're saying. And I totally see that. And I think the statistics are just so clear around divorce rates, testosterone dropping down low, obviously the porn we'll talk about, all of these factors that kind of prove the point that this is not just an idea or a feeling or an inclination that there's an attack on masculinity. It's data driven and it's proven by data. So I love that. And I loved where you were about to head into the notion that men evolutionarily, instinctually crave sex in a way that women don't. Women crave sex too, but there's just a different way in which sex influences how we function as people in the world. And so I would love for you to jump right in there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
What you said there is so accurate as far as sex influences us, and that should be acknowledged. That sex has a very deep influence on our perception or the lens in which we view the world. And so our relationship with sex and our sexual energy is influencing our very consciousness into the world, the very lens in which we are seeing the world.
Mm,
And so when you take a man's biology
yeah.
and understand that his biology and his psychology are interlinked. They're not different. There's a mind body connection.
Mm,
And same with a woman, that we are generally supposed to be, in this age, it's debatable. We are supposed to be biologically much higher testosterone and less estrogen.
yeah.
What's interesting is that this is a subtle thing. So men, and I'm speaking about personal experience,
Yeah.
like if you were to tell me, let's say 5 years ago, before I really like started taking this masculinity journey seriously, it's vulnerable for men. It's a hard pill to swallow because it really hurts our ego. Because what you have to admit is I'm not being a man, which is very difficult because you're like, what the fuck? Right? Like as a
Mm,
man, you're like, am I like supposed to, shouldn't I be stronger than this? Shouldn't I be like way more motivated? Shouldn't I
mm,
be like conquering shit right now? Not like
mm,
sitting here playing Netflix and jerking off to a screen. Like shouldn't a woman actually be with me and not like paying her on a webcam to be like, $5, please? Can you show it to me? Right? You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
when you wake up to that and you're like, there's a part of it. So what happens is people are like, it's natural. I'm like, no, what's natural is the drive. The expression is fake.
That's amazing.
Natural.
Yeah.
Natural is the drive. That's what I'm like, I'm not anti-sex. I'm telling guys, go. This makes me controversial in the religious communities
Mm,
because in the from a political perspective, no fap is the answer, and semen retention is the answer to the attack on masculinity. That's why I believe they attacked me so hard during the election, like brutally hard.
can
Like
you?
I had like ridiculously amounts of bad press for a local election. I'm not the leader
Yeah.
of the party. I was
Yeah.
getting national spotlight.
Totally. Can you connect the dots for me on why NoFap is the answer there, like through that
Okay.
masculinity journey?
Okay, because so if you want to weaken a population, you castrate. If I want a docile an animal, I castrate that animal. Everybody knows as soon as the balls are cut, the
Mm,
animal is like passive.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, same thing. Full balls and men, meaning we're not jerking off, we're not watching porn. Yeah, we're having sex, which actually there's a positive to having real sex. All right. And
Yeah.
from a biological perspective, it's been proven, even flirting with women, being around women. I know when I'm around women that I'm attracted to, like I'm like, oh wow, that's a hot woman. There is a different energy that comes up in me that's like, yeah, I better I better push up a few more times, right? I better
Yeah.
I better get my workout right, there's no way I'm failing on this rep, right? Not with her next to me, right? Right? You know what I
Totally.
mean?
That's such a cool thing to acknowledge, you
Oh,
know? Yeah.
totally. It's like, oh, she's next to me, boom, boom, all but, and I felt it, like I know about it. Like I'll come home to my wife because me and my wife completely like have so transparent, right? And I'm like, fuck, man, I was like literally on rep 8, and then this just tight booty girl walked by me, and I was like, 9, 10, 11.
I love that. I think that's
Because
relationship goals for people to have that
oh
kind of
yeah.
openness and honesty.
Yeah, yeah. You want to be like, that's a whole different thing. You want to get there, but that's what sexual alchemy, like when we get to that part of
Yes.
it, right?
Yeah.
So the basics, so what we're talking about now, just to link it, is like, so no fap is the answer. Semen retention is the answer because it stops the self-castration that men are doing to themselves in ignorance. I say in ignorance in all
Mm,
love, meaning I didn't know either. Look, I'm fortunate because I was in like college by the time I started watching porn. So I was
mm,
like 19, 20. Our brain as men generally develop about 25. So I don't have deep rooted seeds of porn. But everybody pretty much underneath me, I'm turning 38 here in a few
yeah.
week here, April 2nd. everybody pretty much coming up underneath me is been growing up with porn, and the generation today are all 10, 9, 10, 11, 12-year olds. They've already seen, more titties and ass and like hardcore shit too. Not
Yeah.
like just like, I'm talking like they've seen stuff that like you'd be like, you'd have what? Like that's
Well,
even a thing,
it's wild. I heard a statistic that like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds are going to their doctors and asking for Viagra because they don't understand that because of the porn, they've become voyeurs so that they actually can't get it up in front of their girlfriends. And they think
That's
they
right.
need Viagra, but it's actually the porn that's causing this.
That's exactly it. That's the weakening of men. And you know
Wow.
what? Big Pharma, Big Pharma is cashing in. Big
Ugh.
Pharma right now is boosting more, is prescribing more testosterone boosters than ever before. Now, here's some science for you. What
Yeah.
happens is when a man retains his semen, so after he ejaculates, if he retains his semen for about 7 to 10 days, roughly, lifestyle, body, all has to like
Yeah.
do with it. So it's not exact, but roughly about a week to 2 weeks, by nature's design, what happens is the body's consistently producing semen. So guys also feel like, oh, I can bust as much as I want because my body's always producing semen. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like a rechargeable battery. You still don't want to like, you don't test its limits in that sense. Nature is
Mm,
very kind and forgiving. And there is healthy ways of ejaculating and there are unhealthy ways. It already shows that like when we are watching porn, we are essentially bonding ourselves to like women that we've never met,
yeah.
women that care nothing for us, women that could care, that it's money, it's as money driven. You're also in a vibration where people are doing lots of hard drugs and stuff, and you're picking
Yeah.
up all on that. You have to think about like what you're consuming on a subtle level as well, and
Mm,
that's a bit more subtle. But from a biology perspective, you have, what you have is that when you're retaining your semen about 7 to 10 days, nature wants you to get laid. Here's the thing. This is what you have to understand. Remember, the drive to get laid is natural. The
yeah.
expression of porn is unnatural.
Yeah.
So do it naturally. So what happens is after about 7 to 10 days, nature, by your body's design, goes, hey man, like you haven't been fruitful and multiplied in the last 7 to 10 days. Your
Yeah.
seed is still in you. It
Yeah.
should be out there, giving us the opportunity to spread our wings and fly.
Right.
And so nature goes, by your body's design, goes, all right, here's what we're going to do. First of all, your semen is where all your best enzymes, proteins, and nutrients are contained, because the body refines what you eat into semen. It comes down to a refining process, and
Mm,
out of the marrow drops semen. So semen is being created all throughout, wherever your skeleton is, semen is being created, and then it's being drawn up and stored as the best
oh,
stuff, so that when a man ejaculates with the sperm mixed with the semen, he's giving the best proteins, enzymes, and
mm,
nutrients he possibly has, so that
mm,
it gives the best stuff to the child to have the best shot at life. So the
sure.
quality of a man, or the potency of a man's semen, is also different grades. Men who are
Mm,
very clean, who are clean of drugs and alcohol, who eat good foods, who work out, they
mm,
are more potent. And this is what men on No Fap realize. The more we work out and retain and all this stuff, we have women have a subtle attraction to us, because at the subtle or subconscious level, a
yeah.
woman is like, he actually has something to offer me. But if you're fat and lazy, and a woman's looking at that and goes, do I want to have his, do I want to produce the guy who's healthy child? Or
Yeah.
do I want to produce the guy who's like, he walked 3 steps and needs to sit down and take a breaks child?
Totally. That's so real. Oh my gosh, it's like the opposite of the way that men can sense women that are feminine or not.
That's
They
right.
can sense it. It's like nuance, but this is the same sense. I've never thought
Yes.
about it this way. Thank you for pointing that out.
Women are attracted to men.
Yeah.
Men are attracted to women. If
Yeah.
you are hovering somewhere in between and non-binary and blah 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 blah, like, God love you if you're having legit, but most of that stuff is political rhetoric to actually confuse young people, and they're doing it at the kids level. That's why you
Absolutely.
got all these drag queens going to this is bullshit. Everybody should be be like, but we don't understand our own psychology. We're not self-aware. We just think it's all about inclusivity. It's not. It's about breaking up and creating confusion, because confused people easily are controlled people. Think about when you're confused, you're just like, and if somebody says, I have the way, you're like, great, just help me get unconfused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you really want to manipulate and control a population, confuse the shit out of that population. And then people will literally like, look, people also get tired. So they're like, can somebody please just, and
Tell
then
me the
somebody will
answer.
come and say, I have a way, right? I
Yeah.
created the problem and I also happen to have the solution ready for you, right?
Oh, but yeah, I mean, just on that note, there's so many statistics around how so many of those kids, teens that are being told that they're trans are just autistic. They have some mental health issues. They have image issues. They're
Oh my
completely
goodness.
digitally addicted and disconnected
Yes.
from themselves. And they don't have good parents that show them what self esteem is, right? They don't have that at home. And
Role
so
models.
it's all comes to the moment of like, I'm just going to say this. Most of us are straight. Some of
Yep.
us are gay, beautiful thing. And I actually feel like the
All
trans
good.
movement is kind of like negating all that like gay people have achieved and like their equal rights, right? And like the status and the ability to marry and to like really have a meaningful relationship with someone of the same sex. Like, bravo, kudos to you for being yourself. And most of us are straight, and men
Yeah.
want women and women want men.
Yeah. And
That's it.
that's, yeah, and that's it. And and that's it. And most people are not homophobic or misogynist. Like
Mm-mm.
most of us understand, like I grew up with people from all around the world
Yeah.
going to my high school. I have gay friends. It's so funny. Like I was called misogynistic and all this stuff, but that's the rhetoric that they use to discredit something that's going against their narrative, that they're
Yeah.
making. If men stop watching porn, you would see a first of all,
Woo!
you would see a massive improvement in sex and bedroom life all around. Because one thing, what's really interesting is we are supposed to be a more sex-free environment, like society, right? That's why we're like, porn is
Right.
fine, and all this is fine, and it's like, but actually what's happening is more sexless marriages now than ever before. And what you have now is more women having affairs now more than ever before. Women going to sex shops, women going, yeah, my man's just not doing it for me, right?
Yeah.
Type of thing. So what can I do? And so no fap is, so you have to, so the first thing to grasp is that that's happening on purpose to weaken the family core and for political agendas. Okay. Once you can like grasp that, then you just be like, well, what does that have to do with me? How can I
Right.
break that down to my life? Right. Here's the deal. If you're a man, listening to this or connecting with this, and you're jerking off to porn, and you are castrating yourself, but I get you unknowingly. Like I did that for most of my life. Again, college, got the laptop, boom. It's like the first thing you do, right? Like, what can I get here? Great. Start downloading porn, watching porn, normal. My buddies are watching porn. Did you watch that porn? Even send me that one. That's a good one, right? Type of thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh shit, blah, blah, blah. It's all normalized. Nobody's thinking about nothing. You're just in that community. It's like, it's kind of starting to all pervade the culture. So
Yeah.
it's so normal, right? Everybody's doing it. Next thing you know, you're jerking off all the time. You're watching porn all the time. You're not interested in real women. And there's all these hormonal effects that happen, right? There's studies, there's great. No Fap essentially is like came, I believe, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially it was born, I believe, out of a TED talk
Oh,
called Your
cool.
Brain on Porn,
Interesting.
I believe. And there
Okay.
are organizations like No Fap, right, that
Yeah.
are like, and that's, they exist to help men stop quitting porn. And it's part of what I do, but I also take it to different places and
Yeah.
levels, right? But No Fap in itself is so good because it first of all brings awareness and education on what porn is actually doing to you at a
Yeah.
biological and psychological level.
Yeah.
How it's now proven that excessive amounts of pornography actually reduce gray matter in the brain and reduce the effectiveness of your prefrontal cortex, which is your right here, your decision making.
Yeah.
You become more impulsive. You jerk off
Mm,
to porn. Bag of Doritos sounds good. couple joints, couple beers. Now I'm hungover. Now I need a couple caffeines, coffee. Don't have the energy for the gym. Fuck my wife. She's pissing me off. I'll just go rub one out. It's this cycle. It's this, and you don't even know it because everybody's doing it. You're kind of just living in it, right?
Yeah.
And it dulls you out. So when a man begins to practice sexual discipline and control,
Yeah.
he then allows his body and nature to drive him to want to get sex. But here's the deal, and here's what happens to a man. So it's like, okay, I'm sitting there and I'm gonna just be as real as possible. Okay.
Please.
I'm like 7-10 days after busting a nut, and I'm like, fuck, I just want, like, sex is just on my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm not watching porn, I'm not jerking off. And you know what? Sarah is out with her friends right now. So what does that leave me to do? Put my energy into somewhere. I'm like, well, you know what? All of a sudden, that same creative power and energy, a man, like, men, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it could be 2-3 o'clock in the morning. You're dead tired. You got to be up at 6 a.m. to go to work. And she says, come on over. I'm lonely. Come on over. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? I cannot sleep tonight. I'm good. Right? Like, you're driving across town, like,
Yeah.
and all that energy and motivation overrides, I'm tired. Any excuse you have, you drop all that. Take that same drive that you would do to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning, build that in you by restraining yourself only at bare minimum to having real sex. Like, sex should be with somebody. If not, it's not sex. You're not getting laid. Jerking off is not getting laid. Watching porn is not getting laid. It's natural drive, fake expression. It's an illusion of getting laid, and there's hormonal taxation to that. Dopamine spikes up to 200% during porn watching, which is ungodly.
Yeah.
That's why you feel such a low after. There's no connection. There's when oxytocin is released into the system during sex, which bonds you and gives you emotional. That's why real sex has actual benefits. Loving sex has been measured to actually have healing benefits, meaning like real love, like when you are having sex with someone for intimacy and you're not just trying to bust a nut, but you guys are like making love. There's actually like tremendous benefits.
Book recommendation, probably one of the best books I've ever read, Passion Play by Felice Dunas. She essentially is this woman with a PhD who has been writing about the ancient secrets of sacred sex, like as taught by the ancient Chinese, and all of these amazing ancient principles. And this book is literally what you're talking about. It is like the manual for anybody that wants sacred sex in their life.
Those teachings is what my school, Nakula does training grounds, is bringing into the world for modern men. That's what we're doing. We're bringing the ancient tantric, Taoist, yogic secrets, the secrets of the druids, the secrets of these ancient cultures, and still some people practice today, that understood the power of sex and how sex is actually deeply linked to your consciousness as well, and your spiritual growth and evolution as an individual in person. It is our most basic driving force. So when we mess around with it and we use it improperly, right? Now, here's the rebellion. The rebellion, in my opinion, has largely come from religious groups who then took that and also recognized that if you stifle someone's sexual energy, they're also easily controlled. So castrate them and they're controlled because they have no power. Suppress it and they'll put all their and make them an economic driving workforce.
Oh, so like the religious side is like, don't masturbate, you'll go to hell. And the political side is like, just masturbate all you want because you're free, quote unquote.
Yeah, because you're free. You're free. You can do whatever you want. But what I'm saying is, it's like somewhere in the middle.
Right.
It's like, actually, there are many studies to show. Now, I practice personally non-ejaculatory sex and non-ejaculatory orgasms and tantric sex. So meaning like when I have sex, generally I don't ejaculate.
So can I ask you a question, like specifically, when you do ejaculate, what is the impetus for that? Like why do you decide to do that, and when? Like, what is the mindset around that?
The mindset around that is like, one, because I have non-ejaculatory sex, I'm building sexual energy. So
Right.
this is like cultivating sexual energy. So at some points, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I better fucking come.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Right? Like it's just like, right? It can also be like too much because it's like, right? Especially because
Sure.
I'm having sex. So it's not like a monk. So a monk, so the path of renunciation, like a monk, is like they are not going to stir that sexual energy so to as in to transcend it. What
Ah,
I do though as a sexual alchemist, because I'm not a monk, I have a wife, I have a sex drive, I'm very still interested in sex and life as a human being on planet Earth. So I'm not interested in renouncing in these things, but
yeah.
I recognize that there's a balance there. If I go into the world of porn and always chasing pleasure, my capacity for success and my capacity to be a man to the fullest capability is reduced because
Mm,
my basic motivator is gone. Every time a man ejaculates, he releases prolactin into his system.
mm,
Prolactin is a testosterone stifler. It's basically like nature going, now you can go to sleep because you've done your job. Your boys are out in the world. Now,
sure.
what your body doesn't know, because your body doesn't have the higher mental faculty to understand this, so it's just responding to stimulation, is
Yeah.
that it doesn't know that you busted your nut in your freaking sock. Like,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't register that because all it registered is that stimulation. Okay, and our boys are gone. Prolactin gets released, go to sleep, and now you feel lazy, and now
Yeah.
you feel tired. And it's sometimes guys who are, if you're honest, it could be, especially as you get older, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 days sometimes, depending how much you've been doing that, before you feel like back to full energy again.
Wow.
So through the process of non-ejac or sexual alchemy, like what
Sure.
I teach, and that's what the ancient Chinese were teaching in the Taoist tradition, and same with the tantric yogis, they were saying like actually by regulating your ejaculation, not only does a man extend his power as a man, not even
Mm,
only does he build himself up as a man, he's more sensitive and sense controlled. Meaning he's sensitive because he's more attuned and aware with his own
mm.
energies, making him more attuned and aware with the energies and the people and the women and the kids and everybody around him. So he
Ugh,
becomes a better leader. He's more heart-centered instead of ball-centered,
that's so
right? He's just,
attractive.
of course, and this is what men need to understand. I was like, men, when our balls, our heart, and our brain are all one, we are the most powerful, most attractive. That's when you're gonna get the bank account, you're gonna lead your people, you're gonna go and help the kids at the baseball game, and then you're gonna go home and give your wife a night of her life. And guess what? You're gonna have energy to do it all again the next day if you learn non-ejaculatory sex, because all
Mm,
that energy is now within you. And next thing you know, it's 4:30 in the morning, you're awake. Like I sleep 5, 6 hours a night
yeah.
because I have all that energy stored up. So when a
Wow.
man is constantly ejaculating, and now you see this major push of rhetoric going out like men should ejaculate 21 times a day, or 20 times a day, 21
21
times a
times
month.
a day.
Jeez, that would be ridiculous. And you get nothing done. And then your wife is sitting there going, this is
Yeah.
like, look at this guy. He's
Who
just
is
like
this
laying
guy?
on. Yeah, like I might as well have married a walrus or some shit, right? Like this just guy's just laying there, just sitting there,
And
can't
I'm
discipline
dreaming
the
of
kids.
Braveheart, and this guy's just sitting there.
Totally right. I want like, like you said, 300, I want that guy. And then you
Yeah.
look there and you're like, oh, let
Yeah.
me go take my toy into the bathroom, right? You know what I
Oh
mean?
my
Right? Like,
God. And
right?
that's so cool, because I'm like thinking like, why do we want that guy? Not just to like say it as a woman because of aesthetics. It has nothing to do with aesthetics. It's because he has overcome difficulties and come out on top. Like
Well,
that's
he's got,
why.
yeah, he's got all the signs that he'll provide for you. He'll
Yeah.
protect you. He'll raise your children. If 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 some shit goes down, this is a guy who's got it. This is a
Yeah.
guy that you can go to and be like, shit, I'm in his space. I'm good. And this is what we call like an unburdened woman. So like when I'm working with men, specifically in relationship redesign or attraction factors, using
Yeah.
sexual energy consciously in relationship. So I specialize in two areas: helping men build their businesses and put this money into creating more wealth and connection, and helping you use this energy to create the relationship you want, both in and outside the bedroom.
Amazing.
And so when we talk about relationship design, it's like you have to understand that unless the basics don't get you laid, but not doing the basics definitely don't get you laid. Like,
what are the basics?
providing. Can you
Okay. Yeah.
provide? Can you,
Yeah.
if she's worried about the bills, she is not jumping on you. If you aren't bringing home the bacon, like, go back to just like when we were living in the jungle and tribes. If you couldn't bring home the boar, I'm not sleeping in your tent tonight. I'm sleeping in the guy's tent who's going to bring home the boar, because that's where I'm going to get something to eat. And guess what? If we have a child together, we've got food for that child. So that's who I'm going to sleep
Can
with.
I ask you? It's amazing. So, God, I freaking get this. And I think that like people's, the devil's advocate response to that, like in this 2023 cultural landscape, would be like, why do men, like, why should they feel such pressure to go and find the boars? Like, isn't it bad for men to feel pressure? Like, maybe some men don't want to feel that kind of pressure. I'm so curious your perspective. Do you know what I'm saying though? Like, that's
100%. I'm laughing because I'm like, I know what you mean, because I was that guy who didn't want to feel that pressure. Fuck you. You're a pussy. You're not strong enough yet. And it's not that you just can't handle life and you don't realize it. And that's the hard part. That's why even guys will reject it. No, no, no. It's equal. It's the days of equality. Why? Nature designed you to go provide. You're feeling the pressure because the pressure is nature internally, call it God inside you, going, yo, man, yo, look, what are you doing? Like, I designed you, made you, and gifted you the intelligence, the power to go up, catch a boar, and go home and make love to your woman. And what do you want to do instead? You want to play video games instead of a man catching a boar, going home, and making love to his woman.
Yeah.
Because that's why you play that video game. It's why we love Peaky Blinders and Thomas Shelby. And it's why when you watch Vikings as a guy, you're like, fucking Ragnar. You're like, yeah, he just killed that guy. He's like eating, and he's like, now I'm going to go make love to 3 women. Every guy knows he's like, fuck yeah. That's why you love the show. They did a study on why people love The Sopranos, and it came down to this. Men wanted to be Tony Soprano, and women wanted to fuck Tony Soprano.
Totally. It's so simple. It's just so simple. It's like the birds and the bees. It's just so simple.
That's all I'm doing. All I'm doing is having the birds and the bees conversation with people. And there's a political side that says, don't remind people that is what's driving them, and don't educate them on higher aspects of it and how it could be a force for good, or it could be a force for evil, or destruction. Evil meaning not good, meaning unhealthy. That's what we're right now. It's being used unhealthy. It's destroying us. So we have to get into a middle ground again. And I don't believe the traditional religious narrative is going to be the solution, because it's not fit for our age.
Yeah.
So as far as the pressure piece, the reason you're feeling the pressure, don't ignore the pressure. The reason you're feeling the pressure, in all seriousness, guys, just like I was feeling the pressure, is nature within you is asking you to step up. It's saying, can you please step up and unburden this woman? Now, here's the beauty of that. As a man, here's what you may or may not experience. And I didn't really experience it until I started doing it. I kind of intuitively, like, if you're listening to me and you're intuitively going, I get what he's saying. Like,
yeah,
I get it. Like, whatever. Like maybe not everything. You're like, maybe that's weird, or I've never heard of that before. Fine. But at the essence, you get what I'm saying. It's like, look, you are designed in a certain way, a certain manner, to carry out your day in a certain way. If you do not do it like that, then you will not feel fulfilled, because you are not fulfilling your actual basic duties. And we have duty as men. We have a role as men. All right. This idea that we don't have a role, ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Nature, what everything has a role. Everything has a place in nature. Just look, and you are part and parcel of nature. You're not separate to it. So you have to act in
Mm,
those laws. You have to act in that way. And that pressure that men are feeling to step up, it's a good thing. In fact, if you're not feeling the pressure, then I'm scared. Then I think you're a lost cause.
yeah.
Because if you're not feeling the pressure, you've already turned off the show. You've
Well,
already turned off the podcast, right? Because you're like,
yeah,
what the massage? This sounds like a bunch of just bro stuff and bro science and all whatever people use to discredit the
totally.
truth behind this message.
Here's what's fascinating. You just had me think of this. Women and sex, right? Sex is such a movable force for men, such an impetus to do and to be useful and to create. But when sex becomes super, super easy, like with porn, but also when it comes to women. So it's like, I'm thinking about how women kind of like, you know, lead how sex happens in society. And so men are all about like being useful. But one thing I have learned about men, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they'll do like the minimum that's required to achieve a result. Like they're not going to give more energy if they can give less energy and get the same result. So this
Right.
idea of like, if as women, we're saying, if like as women we say, hey, in order to have sex, men, you're going to have to become a productive member of society, you're going to have to work out in the gym, you're going to have a job, you're going to have to do all these things, and then you get sex, they'll do that. But if we say you just need to be at the bar at 2:30 in the morning at this time and then you'll have sex, then they'll do that too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as a collective, we have taught women that to stop valuing themselves. And what has that done to men? It's taught men to stop valuing themselves.
Yeah. It's. I mean, we're like I said, it's never a blame game. It's not
Yeah.
women did this, men did this. It's like we've
No.
both misunderstood, and we've both allowed over time for us to move away from some traditional teachings and
Yeah.
knowledge and wisdom that has been around for thousands and thousands of years.
Yes.
We've moved away from it in an illusion that we're progressing. But history will tell us, like the Roman Empire went through the exact same thing with the over promiscuity, and
Mm.
where the society became so weak and unproductive. And you could see it was all the way from the leaders all the way into the society that everybody was like so like lazy in a way. The Romans
Interesting.
started becoming fat. The Romans started becoming more promiscuous. They started drinking more alcohol, consuming, because they became such a rich society. So societies go in cycles, and they're
Oh,
roughly about 250 years. You look at every empire, and that's where like the West is. Like, the US is somewhere around that. Canada is like 200 coming up,
fascinating.
190, 200. So you can see it's all right around the same cycle. So the large amount of society is that the West has become so rich, so powerful, that we're now on the decline. It doesn't have to be that way, but largely we're on a decline because most of society is now weak. We're now pleasure centered instead of evolution centered or growth centered or productive
Mm.
centered. And men are the driving workhorses of a society, of an economy, because it's
Yeah.
masculine energy. So the challenge is too, you get weaker children over time because now both men and women are working. Well,
Right.
now who's raising the children? The government's raising the children. And who pays for the government curriculums in schools? Corporations, big pharma sponsors. Big pharma corporations are the number one lobbyists in politics, meaning nobody is calling your politician, taking your politician and your representative and your counselor and your congressman and whatever, than
Yeah.
big pharma is. Nobody's calling them more. Nobody's donating more. Nobody's showing up to. Big pharma is the number one a political lobbyist. They have the largest lobbying power, especially within America, and that will trickle over to Canada as well as many other countries wrapped up in
Yeah.
these global agreements.
Yeah.
So you have to understand, follow the money, right? It's like, okay, great. So semen retention, no fap, is now being called an alt-right movement, associated with a nationalist movement, even associated with the racist movement. All this stuff is so
Jesus.
funny, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, what? Why? because from a political perspective, they don't want to give credibility. They don't want people listening to guys like me. They're going to be like, that's pseudoscience. I'm like, this is thousands of years of, first of all, scriptures. Yes, you may not think that's important, whether it's the Bible or
Right.
the Vedas. And I'm not, when I say scriptures, I'm not talking about one in particular. I'm talking about ancient writings
Yep.
from the Taoists, from the Indian, the Taoist, the yogic tradition, from the Christian tradition. Every major religion has some sort of teachings. The Orthodox Jewish folks, I believe, only have sex like on Fridays. It's like time for like, it's, you and your
They
wife, you
have
spend your
the
time
they
together.
have the like times around they base their sexuality around the female menstrual cycle. So there's like 2 weeks of the month where they don't have sex.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So you can see that there's some regulations and
Yeah.
teachings around it, because we have like, so in the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, this is where it starts to get really fascinating. Is where it's like, he talks about the power of sex transmutation, and that the most successful men actually practice some kind of sexual restraint, discipline, focus, alchemy. So I'll give you some names that we all probably know of.
Yeah.
Sir Isaac Newton,
Yep.
Mahatma Gandhi, Winston Churchill. When Winston Churchill was asked, you're a powerful man, you've run a country as a career,
Yeah.
like type of thing. You've fought
Yeah.
in wars, like you're like, and he said, what's your secret? And you know what he said? He says, I don't chase women. I love my wife. I got married. The rest of my time is spent, doing this service, right?
Uh,
So he was a man of value. He's not out there like chasing ass. He said
yeah,
everybody on Parliament Hill is chasing ass, right?
dude.
They're using their political power and fame or whatever, their status in society. It's very lucrative. Like I say, I had a great following, like it was very easy to get caught up. I'm the man to my audience, right? Like it's very easy to get
Yeah.
caught up in that. So you have to be very grounded in your values. And most people right now, most politicians, at least the ones that I've personally met, most of them are corporate guys who climb corporate ladders, and the government is just another ladder to climb.
Totally. This
So they don't see it as a service to humanity per se, as more as a career advancing move. Right, like,
wow.
oh well, this will be good, this will be my next step, I'll get into higher networks, I can now I'm at the round table with all the biggest companies, right? And
Yeah.
because the biggest companies need to know what the government, how the government can help them move products and services and change laws to allow them to facilitate. It's all based around industry. Like everybody has to
Yeah.
know, it's all based around the resources. And that goes back from when we were in tribes like the Vikings fighting each other over for
Mm,
resources, or now today we're fighting over oil, and now we're fighting over like more technology advances.
yes.
Knowledge becomes a thing. I want to know what technology he has or they have. So there's technological work, but the same driving factors
Yeah.
is motivating it. And beneath it all, it comes down to the Genghis Khan, can he produce the most children?
Totally.
This guy, it's like the most wildest shit ever that you could think of is what it
Yeah.
comes down to. It's the most
Yeah.
basic raw thing.
It is basic
So
and raw. Yeah.
yeah, so basically, no fap is a huge opportunity for men to shift their lives, change their lives, give up pornography, re-energize themselves. Yeah, I was talking to this guy. He's like maybe in his 50s. He said, "Man, I've been doing no fap," and he said, "I feel like I'm 19 again." I said, "Yeah."
Woo!
I was like, but with the wisdom of a 50-year-old. And I said, imagine being a horny 19-year-old, but now with the wisdom of a 50-year-old. I said, now you've got drive, but intelligence with it. So when you're 19, you had drive, no intelligence. Don't have intelligence, but no drive. You need both.
Right.
Balls, heart, brain. You need it all
Right.
to be a full man, to be a full human being. And women do it in their own way, but it's different. Yeah, so basically, does that answer your question?
That's amazing. So
Why is
I love that. So I love what you just said. It has me think about how, like, so many women are traumatized in Western societies, like so much trauma around men showing up for them, to where I think women now are indoctrinated into this, well, I don't do relationships, like I sleep around, all this stuff. But deep down, women just want a man that wants to choose them. like really deep down. That's what they want. And they're, what's fascinating is what you're telling me, everything you're sharing about NoFap and what it does for men and how it kind of like awakens this drive to achieve and also be committed, be like a committed man,
Yeah.
um, is so good for women.
Oh my gosh.
This
Look,
is so good for women.
it's nature's way. There's an overall ideology that's starting to penetrate society with all this wokeism and such that says there's no form. There's no masculinity. This is like a deeper
Right.
call. We're talking about consciousness now, right? Like this is
Yeah.
right, right. But there's no form. There's just you can be whatever you want. Oh, you feel that
Nonsense.
way? Then that's facts now. But so what you're denying is form. You're denying that no, there is a way. There is a higher intelligence that is actually, and and if you override it, while you have some power to override it for some time, it essentially never works out well. And it comes to
Mm,
bite you in the butt type of thing.
mm,
So we live in this type of philosophy where nobody is we forget that we are part of a larger ecosystem, right? And you have to act within those in harmony with that ecosystem.
mm.
And so you have a role, men have roles. Men, we are you want to if you're a man and you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, you know what? I don't think I'm performing at the best at my job or the best in my career or my business. And I don't think I'm performing well at home. And I don't think I definitely could lose a few pounds and I could be more fulfilled within myself, maybe be more compassionate, maybe be more connective, or stop letting my sexual energy drive me, right? Whether I'm having like affairs or I'm watching porn or whatever I'm doing, right? And you're thinking like, what is that? Largely it's actually comes from you lacking a bigger game or purpose.
Yeah.
So what happens is if you tell men you're not really valuable, you're not really needed, men, we don't know what to do with ourselves. So what we'll end up doing is become pleasure seeking beings, which weakens us as men. As
Yeah.
men, we are providers, protectors. We're the hunters. We're the guys who are supposed to go out there and fight the battle and again kill the boar and bring home the right and all this type of stuff. We're building the homes and all of that drive that our ancestors had is still in us. That's driving us.
Mm,
In today's modern world, that means maybe building a business, learning how to make money, learning how to communicate well, right? All those need to want to climb the social status, all this stuff. I'm not saying any of those things are bad or you need
yeah.
to be a martyr and stifle those things out of your life. But if you don't earn it, then what ends up happening is you end up living a simulated life.
Yeah.
And that's what essentially the meta is. But they're playing on what are your natural drivers and they're simulating it on
Mm,
technology, but
totally.
it doesn't have the same fulfillment because it's an atheistic way of looking at life because it doesn't acknowledge anything other than a biological or material existence.
Mm,
They think in computers, like it's like a Bill Gates type, right? Who's like
yeah.
going, well, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. Like you have to understand that's the mind of these are the minds of the people who've created the most amazing technology, but they're also now trying to influence culture and to fit into this world of technology. Instead
Right.
of making technology to support human beings, it's now I have a system, and how do I get the world to fit into that system? Mm-mm.
It's
You
like
don't override nature's systems.
totally. It's like a when something goes from being a tool to being a weapon.
Yeah, that's right. That's what's happened now.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter conspiracy theory. It's just happening. Maybe it's just a natural evolution. We have to grow with it and evolve with it. So that's it. So the whole no fap semen retention, what we're doing, what men are doing is we are discovering our nature. We're
Yeah.
discovering who we are again. And we're doing and it's healthy and it's good and it's great for men and it's great for women and it's great for kids because what it does is it teaches men to be responsible. I was saying groups like the Lions Club, the Rotary
Yep.
clubs, like, these were largely men, businessmen, men of different parts of society who would come together for social time together and to make impact. Hey, let's build that
Mm,
playground for the kids in the park, and hey, let's make sure that soccer field is taken care of, and let's make sure that, well, what do we, what kind of things, or what events and culture are we
yeah.
setting up? That's what those organizations, they would drive a lot of the community things.
Yeah.
What those groups are all dying out, and what's replaced that is now everybody asking the government to supply those things. So the
Mm,
governments love that because it makes them more powerful, because the government goes, you want me to supply something? Great, I'll tax you more and I'll supply it, right? Like, because
mm,
the government isn't in itself producing anything. They're
mm.
getting you to produce the things you want. And of course, a lot of people get rich off that. If a whole society wants something and the government's like, well, I've got a contract for it. Like, you have to understand the money behind the amounts of money that goes behind like government contracts and influencing what happens and what gets built and doesn't get built. Like, it's massive. It's a
Mm,
big game. And so when people at really high levels want to influence a society, they will do all kinds of things to move society in a way in which they see fit, whether it's for nature or not.
totally.
So No Fap is dangerous to the woke movement. It's dangerous to the overall plan that we should basically stifle out the masculine energy and the alpha male archetype, because
Yeah,
it's the alpha male archetype that's going to be the 300 guys that stand up to the army and go, fuck you, you're not coming here.
totally.
So
It's
yeah,
taking the agency out of the
yeah,
hands of men.
totally.
Which I know when men are like excited and energized and on purpose and they get together,
Oh my
woo,
God,
they can build a highway in 20 hours.
totally.
They
You
can
get
do
a bunch
anything.
you get a bunch of guys together
Yeah.
who are like on point.
Yeah.
This shit is unreal what can happen. Empires have been created, countries. The
Yeah.
United States of America was born, right? Right?
So
Like,
true.
right? Like, it's like that's what happens when you get, not only like you get a powerful guy in a community, and that whole community can change. One powerful dude, you
Yeah.
get a Gandhi and a whole country can change. You get like,
Yeah.
that's how much it could. Now, most of us may never be Gandhis and may never, who gives a shit, right? It's not about that. It's about,
Right.
are you operating at the best? Just lead your family, for crying out loud. Like,
Right.
if the garbage isn't taken out and the roof is leaking, or that project has been sitting there for 6 months,
Right.
get that shit done, man. Lead your house, lead yourself. As men, we just lead ourselves. We
Yeah.
lead ourselves well, naturally everyone else tends to follow. Like, a lot of guys misunderstand this whole idea of like, well, I want a submissive woman. I'm like, you don't ask for a submissive woman. A woman
Mm,
will naturally support you when you're rocking it. When
mm.
you come home and you're like, or you're like, you're like, yeah, I just banged out another sale, I got this done, that done, before you even woke up, I've already taken care of half the day. You think she's not going to get up and you're going to have to ask her to help you?
No
She's
way.
No way. She's going to be like, "Oh shit, you know what? Let me go make breakfast then, cuz I'll feed
Totally.
this guy and just get him back out there." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
let him go hunt and blah blah and get with his boys and do his things. So, but I acknowledge the what you said about like men. We can't go back in time, and there is definitely like an overall been mistreatment of women from men, and there has been toxic masculinity. I'm not denying that, just like there's
Totally.
toxic femininity. There
Totally.
has been toxic masculinity. A lot of the stuff, like the red pill stuff, men going their own way, I don't buy into that, because I'm like,
Traumatized
well,
stuff.
yeah, that's all trauma. I'm like, whoa, 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 relax. I was like, hello, you have mommy issues, and that's fine. A lot of us do. Work that out. But to say I'm to for both either man or woman to say I'm going my own way is just illusion. We're None of us are going anywhere. We're all on this planet, first of all. Like, so nobody's
Yeah.
going nowhere. So you ain't
Yeah.
going anywhere. All you're doing is making up something in your head.
Yeah.
I said, but you're actually just nothing's happening. And we need each other. We're
Yeah.
complementary.
We do.
We're
We really
complementary. I
need
mean,
each
and
other.
women have added so much to my life. Like I love the women around me, right? And the women that I'm connected with. And it's like, and we can have a great like harmonized relationship just the way nature designed it to be.
Totally.
Right? So it's like, but again, it's really coming back to understanding some basic principles and understanding, and it's a very difficult pill to swallow, but you've been lied to. Like you're essentially being taught that as a man you're useless, or that your masculinity or your sexuality is wrong even,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
huge.
wrong.
That's
Yeah,
so
it's not wrong.
huge. I hate
That's
that
such
that
psychological warfare.
it's
Yeah.
psychological warfare. I think a man's sexuality is so potent, and I will even say, women. People like to say that the male gaze is a bad thing, but women love when men look at them out in public. They really
For
love
sure.
it deep down, secretly.
Sure. Well, look, women want to be desired, men
Yeah,
need to be needed, and women want to be wanted.
yeah,
If you just understand that principle,
yeah,
you'll understand how to interact with each other in a way that's harmonious. Like over time, Sarah recognized, like let's say I'm feeling off, feeling down. What would bug me is like if she came and babied me.
mm-hmm.
Oh, what can I like? And then I would like push her because I'd be like, oh, fuck, don't fucking baby me. Because what I actually need right now is more a man. That's why men have to get together with men. Because what I actually need is like a man to be like, hey, buddy, I get it. You bruised your knee. I get it. You didn't make the sale. I get it. Like, she said no. You fell in love, but you really weren't, right? Like, come on, like, move on. You need generally another man to do that, right?
Yeah,
To you and
yeah,
to sharpen you. So men sharpen men.
right,
And women, if you want to empower your men, need him.
totally.
Like need him. Let him be the man. And a lot of women see that and think that's a weakness on their part. I'm like, it's your strength. I was like, if you, I'm like, women, best example in history that I know of is Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
Okay.
So here you have the Roman Empire, right?
Yeah,
That Roman emperor. I mean,
yeah,
arguably the most powerful man in the world,
yeah,
right? This guy's like killing people on a day. Like this guy is like all power. Well, he goes to Egypt and meets Cleopatra, the ultimate seductress for women.
yeah,
Like if you want the archetype of a seductress, Cleopatra, who was also known not to be very aesthetically beautiful as like a model. Like it doesn't matter, it's energy,
yeah,
right? I was like, and too many people, both men and women, give too much emphasis to just the aesthetic,
yeah.
especially guys. Like guys nowadays, because of porn culture, like I couldn't believe when I got involved with this work how many guys started reaching out to me about like I think my dick is too small.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's a thing. Like, why do you think your dick is too small? Well, and then it's like they're watching porn.
Right.
And I'm like, well,
Comparisons.
yeah, I'm like, first of all, dude, anyways, we don't go down that rabbit hole, but it's like
You're
it's
fine.
yeah, totally. I was like, dude, like, trust me, you care way more about that than she will ever care. In
Totally.
fact, if you're too big, she's not gonna like it. Like, right? Like, I was like, you're seeing a fantasy and you're mistaking this for reality, right? You're seeing something that's not
Mm,
real, but you're wiring yourself because sex is such a forming, it forms our beliefs, it forms our subconscious mind, it forms our consciousness,
mm.
that it's like, whoa, you better be very conscious about the way that you understand sex and sexuality.
Woo.
So
And on the
anyways,
female side, just to finish
yeah,
that,
yeah,
like the Kim Kardashian phenomenon, like the BBL, and just like women thinking they need to look fake,
right,
so insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all like all this stuff. It's all like kind of like, enhance everything. It's all fake. It's all fake. It's like because it's like a natural woman is no longer good enough. And I'm like, if you can't, as a man, if you can't look at a woman, right, and be like turned on, that's how you know you've dulled your own body and
Yeah.
senses and mind. Because there was a time, like I remember a time where like if you saw like if you saw a woman, like if you got some side boob, man, you were thinking about that side boob for days. Like you were like at school, right? You saw Lisa's side boob. You were like, fuck, man, Lisa is fucking hot, right? Like you're like you were
That's so
thinking about
I
that
love
shit
that.
for days, right?
So
Now,
innocent. I love it. I miss that. I miss
totally,
those days.
totally. It's so
Yeah.
it's innocent. Like it's
Yeah.
but again, like it's like you were just like that's how attracted you were. Like
Yeah.
if a girl brushed up on you when you were putting your like in the locker and
Yeah.
you got the hot girl comes next to you and she like brushed your shoulder brushed on you, you're just like you smelt her hair. You if you were on you were like you're like holy shit, this girl I'm in
Now it's a
love,
good
right?
day. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
this is just beautiful, right? Everything is fine, right? Now like you gotta like what do you gotta see to get off, right? Like fuck,
Desensitized.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
totally desensitized. So therefore when you are with women, so men experiencing social anxiety, being
Right.
feeling rejected, even with like even if you're not single, being my wife rejected me and not being able to handle because you made a pass at her and she's like not now later and you're oh no this is means something, all of that is just signs that your hormones your brain things have been dulled out because of the damage that we've
Mm,
done, and not just the porn. Then you think about the drugs and the alcohol and the
yeah.
social media and the blah 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 and the caffeine. It's like oh just like we're
Totally.
piled on stimulation
Yeah.
that no wonder like yeah just a natural beautiful woman
Right.
it like doesn't do it for you. It's like because you live in a
Ugh,
fantasy
that's
world,
so
right?
true.
Which
I just as an anecdote, like
yeah.
nowadays, as when I like walk around and just like I go to the shop or whatever, I really only find that it's like older gentlemen that like give me eye contact. Like the
I'm
younger
sorry, but it's true.
guys, the younger
It's
guys
so true.
don't, because the older guys aren't doing that. They're not caught up in like the stimulation, so they're
That's
just
right.
like more of it aware.
Well, they're aware. They're like, well, that's a beautiful woman, right? I actually love going when I go to the gym or I go to the mall or anything. I don't take my phone. Like I'll leave my phone in the locker or whatever.
Yeah.
And I actually like the stimulation of like seeing like people working out, seeing beautiful women around. Like the gym
Yeah.
is full of beautiful women, and not in like you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like you're not doing that. But I'm not gonna lie and say, do I not get like see all these beautiful women
Yeah.
around me? Of course I do. Of course I'm turned on by them. Of course I'm not like this. But again, there's a respect. I'm also not gonna just walk up and slap the girl's ass. I'm not just gonna like
Totally.
I don't want to do anything to make her feel uncomfortable or anything. But at the same time, like I've been at the gym and like caught eyes with a woman and smiled and been like, "Hey, how's it going?" and blah 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 blah. And it has that sexual tension to it.
Mm,
And I liked it. It seemed like she liked it. We say hi now more than often. And it's
that
just like,
feels good.
right. And it's just because it's natural
Yeah.
connections. It's natural. It's going out
Natural.
there. And there's a thing that happens for men on the men's side. I'm sure it happens for women, but maybe you can speak to that. But it's like
Yeah.
where in those scenarios, there's a confidence that's born in that.
Yeah.
There is a social skills that are born in that. There's also like I remember in high school, I used to do this to challenge myself. I used to go up to girls by myself at the mall, at the bus, wherever I was, and be like, try my skills out. Hey, what's going on? I saw you, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, right? Blah, blah. And sometimes you get the number and sometimes you don't get the
Yeah.
number, right? And blah, blah, blah. But whether you got the number or not was so funny. It was like I always felt good after. I was
Yeah.
always like, I went for it. And you start to recognize it's cool. Like getting rejected is okay.
Fine.
Like it's okay that people say no to you. And then you know what? That's really useful for when you're in sales, that you might close 3 out of 10 sales calls. You're in my world, 3 out of 10 sales, I'm booking 30, 40, $50,000 a month. So that means
Mm,
I gotta hear, 30, 40, 50 no's.
totally.
If I don't have a good self-esteem and self-image and I understand rejection is part of the game and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, then I'm just gonna go up and crawl on, I'm gonna go play a video game, which is gonna mimic the stimulation of leveling up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually come with the real fulfillment because deeper inside, you're not actually leveling up.
Hell
You're
yeah.
leveling up in a video game. You're leveling up in a simulation, which is simulating what you're supposed to be doing in real life. It's like, what was the game? Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto.
So you drive around in Grand Theft Auto, you climb up the ranks of the gang or whatever, you get girls, you bang them. I was
Yep.
like, do you know why that game is so popular? Because it's what you actually want to be doing in real life, but you're not doing it, because in real life, it's not going to take you an hour to level up. It's going to take you 3 years of the gym,
Yeah.
changing your diet, hard work, every chick ignoring you. Like you're just nothing and nobody, and you feel it. Because when you try to level up, one thing that you don't like about it, and I'm sharing this very honestly, is like you feel then inadequate. You're like,
Yeah.
so I'm obviously not like king shit. It's way easier to look at porn and feel like you're king shit and trick
Mm,
yourself into it than actually doing it. But here's the deal. If you actually want to live that life, right?
yeah.
Then put in the work. You put in 3 to 5 years. Like my program is a 6 month program
Okay.
where I work with guys, right? And I always tell guys, look, you give me 6 months, maybe a year, depending where you're starting from, and you'll get a whole new life.
Mm,
Or keep doing what you're doing, and 5 years from now, you'll pretty much have the life you have right now, but worse.
dude, that's
Because
such a great way to say it. Yeah.
so it's like, what's your choice? Your choice
Yeah.
is level up. That's why
Yeah.
you like, again, it's why we love Vikings and why we love
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, because everybody wants to be the king, but very few people want to admit it because it's not politically correct anymore.
Yeah.
And people don't like it when they don't. It's like, well, not everybody's going to be prime minister, not everybody's going to be president or king or CEO, but shit, if you end up making an extra 50 grand a year and can provide a great life for yourself and your family, it's just, you're a king of your world. It's fine,
It's
right?
honestly like, as a woman saying that, like, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter. You can become anybody. And that's so exciting. So, like, when you were talking about the kind of sexual alchemy that's found in flirting and like the art of flirting that you learn when you have these opportunities to engage with the opposite sex, like I was at the gym and there was a boxing class and I love to go and I love to train, but also I love the testosterone in the room. I feel so energized by it when I leave. It feels so good. And there's always this one dude who like takes my weight and like puts it up and like is just so cool the way he does that. And he's like got a very strong energy. And I find out he's the one out of the 8 dudes in that class that is like married with 4 children.
Right.
He's the one that is like running shit in his life,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And it's
That's why
obvious.
it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's like the guy who is the guy who's running shit in his life has an energy about him that's very attractive to women. And again, that's what no fap guys on no fap
Yes.
figured out. The
Yeah.
reason why a lot of guys are attracted to it is because they recognize that they are ruining their own actual attractive sexual energy.
Yep.
They're trading in a fake thing. So
Yeah.
therefore the real thing is either they can't do it, they're incapable of it, literally social anxiety and
Ah,
I can't talk to women and da 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 and all this stuff, or they're struggling with things like I've helped guys with through the sexual alchemy and the practices that we do. Premature ejaculation. The average man lasts under 5 minutes in the bedroom, while it takes up the average woman at least 20 minutes of good foreplay or good play to get into a state before her orgasm can be
absolutely.
reached. So therefore, what you have is a lot of women like feeling very dissatisfied in the bedroom, and men too, because as men, when we don't perform well in the bedroom, it affects our psychology. Like a man's sexual prowess and confidence and his ability to go and like sell and goes hand in hand. When
Yeah.
a man knows, like, look, I'm good, I can rock her
Yeah.
world. See, we take a pride in that.
Yeah.
Like men take pride in like, yeah, I rocked her world, right?
Totally.
Like we would even
Useful
say when we're
piece.
talking, oh, I gave it to her, right? Oh, I gave it, right? It's like because there's like I did
Isn't that
my
the
duty as a
ultimate? That's the
man.
ultimate provision.
Totally. Yeah. It's like I did, she will remember that.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
Totally.
it's like a pride of
Yeah.
being able to perform at a high level there.
Yeah.
when you know that you can do that and you're controlled in your energy,
Yeah.
you are okay with going up to anybody because you're like, I can handle myself and I'm very
Totally.
comfortable. When you have that same energy and you're like, I can go sell and handle myself, I can go climb the ladder in my company, or I can start that business because I perform well, period.
Mm,
Your bedroom, not, it's not like there's no bedroom life and then this life and that life.
totally. It's one
You
life.
one life. How you perform in one area is how you perform in all areas. And women know that subtly. So that's why when they see a man performing well, like I tell guys, you're for a man, largely your bedroom life is dictated by how you handle yourself outside the bedroom.
So freaking true. And can I just tell you,
Of course.
like, everyone that's listening, I'm just going to kind of like put a bow on this because that's why I love Venus and Mars and the whole concept of Venus and Mars, just like men and women relating honestly. It's so
Yeah,
beautiful to me.
I love
And
it.
so female sexuality is super expansive. So I've been in a lot of women's groups. I'm in this women's group with like 8 of us. We meet, on Zoom, and there's a lot of embodiment exercises that we do. And the very first place we go to open up our intuition or to tap in is through sexuality and our own sexuality, and like expanding that and finding that our sexuality is the key to our creativity. Our sexuality is the key to so much. And so when our partner is unable to perform in the way that you're speaking about, right? And to really feel like he's got it, he limits our expansion. And then we feel that. And then over time, people stop sleeping together, they stop expanding their sexuality together. And then men have this, idea in their minds around like, oh, yeah, like 5 years in, we're not having sex. That's not a reality that has to happen. That's just something people are indoctrinated with.
Yeah, that's when you're actually, when you don't know about sex at a deeper level, your
Yeah.
sex ends up becoming stagnant because what you're doing is, so I say there's three types of sex. And so the lowest, so there's, okay, we'll start minus no sex under the illusion of sex, which is
Right.
porn masturbation.
Right.
That is not sex. To say it's sex, someone else has to be involved, right? Okay, that's like, let's just say that, okay? If so, by yourself, not sex, fake sex, absolutely should be cut out of your life because it forces you, it wires yourself to go and do that instead of connecting with someone. And connecting someone has much higher benefits other than just having sex, right? Just getting off. Then you get into like what I'll call like level 1 sex,
Right.
which is like obligation sex. Okay, it's been a month. She'll starfish it out. You'll gyrate on her for a little bit and then it'll be over. And both of you guys will feel dissatisfied. You'll
Totally.
feel dissatisfied. You as a man will feel dissatisfied because there's nothing. Okay. I'll tell you something. Like, okay, just to be brutally honest, since we're being brutally honest, okay. I really experienced this when I was doing lots of rallies in politics. If a woman looked at me a certain way, I remember her.
Mm.
Like I remember her because she gave me the I want you eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Whether she might have been conscious or not, that's the way I interpreted it. Let's just say that. Let's say I interpreted it that way.
Sure. Okay.
The power is that when a man can see that a woman is desirous of him, like this woman is attracted to me, he gets lit up. So when you have good sex and even if it might not be spoken, but she's not really into it.
Mm.
It's obligation. I pretty much had to beg her, can we have
Mm.
sex? I was like, don't ask if we can have sex tonight. Don't ask that question. Like, if you can't lead her to the bedroom,
Yeah.
like lead her to the bedroom. I'm like, hey, at 8 o'clock, can we have an appointment of sex?
Oh,
Right? It's like, right, it's like that's like guys are like begging for it. I'm like, you shouldn't be asking
totally.
like in that way. I mean, like not in that way anyways, right? I was like, I was like, so this obligation sex,
Yes,
it's like you've asked for it, so she's saying yes. Of course, I'm talking about it on the guy's experience side
totally.
of it, right?
Totally.
So you've asked for it, she says yes, so you do it, but you kind of know, or you feel like it's not that great.
Yeah,
It wasn't that great of sex. There was nothing really there. Generally, it lasts short because everybody kind of wants it to be over in a way, or you kind of know she wants it to be over, right?
yeah.
And so you're just like, it's
That's
over.
where the faking of the orgasms happens, the
Yeah.
female side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just wants it to be over.
Yeah.
She's not into it, but she's like, I'm your wife or I'm your girl. So like, or whatever, you
Yeah.
deserve it type of, she might feel obligated in some reason. So it's obligatory, obligation sex. It's the worst type of sex. It's better not to have sex, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't want obligation sex because it actually, it diminishes a man. Here's why you should never have obligation sex, because he knows it and it diminishes his confidence.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck, she does not turn on by me at all. It's better to go through the more tougher route, which is to open up about, look, like, I don't want to have sex with you because actually I'm not turned on by you, which is
Totally.
way tougher to say. But if you're serious about having the relationship you want, probably needs to happen.
Absolutely. Fair.
Right.
Great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, do you want to avoid it and have shitty sex and shitty relationship and blah blah blah, or do you just want to go into it and be like, hey, what's up, what is going down here? So don't obligation sex, you think you might be doing him a favor. If you're a woman, you're not. And if you're a man, don't accept it. Like, you don't want to fuck me tonight, sorry, excuse my crude language, you don't want
No.
to have sex with me tonight, or you don't want to fuck me tonight, fine. I'd rather you tell me that than you like feel like you have to be, because as a man, I don't feel like a king like that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
feel like a king. I feel like, oh, well, fuck, I can get a prostitute if I want,
Totally.
right? So
Totally.
that's the worst type of sex. A lot of people are having sex on that level, and that's why eventually the sex dies out, because their sex never became higher than, once the initial passion and sexual tension dispersed, right?
Yeah.
The honeymoon phase,
Yeah.
then and life set in, then you never expanded, to use your language, you never expanded your sexual life, or what
Yeah.
sex means or its importance in your life. So
Yeah.
then there's the second type of sex, and this is what I'll call the porn sex. This is the, I can't wait till we're getting home, like pull over the car. This is the, I'm sneaking into your office and bend me over, like, like your desk, like that. Everything
Yeah.
that porn plays on, it's
Sure.
carnal. It's much more carnal. It's based upon raw principles. That guy can provide. Why do I like the guy at 300? Because that's the guy who's going to kill the boar, come home, and he's going to give it to me because he's
Totally.
like
He's
fucking
gonna
like
be King Leonidas in my bedroom.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Totally. Like, like
Yeah.
he's got everything. He's turned you on in all the animalistic carnal ways.
Yep.
The other way too, to do that is like I myself am not a big dude. I'm not a King Leonidas dude, like from physical frame and such.
Yeah.
But what I found is every guy has something, right? And like,
Totally.
don't, if you're thinking there, I'm not that guy, right? Because I'm like, I get it. Look, I'll never be a 6 foot two, blonde hair dude, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm 5'7", Indian looking guy, right? That's what I got to work with. All right. So if you're a guy out there going, well, shit, I'm not a model. I hear you. I feel you. Okay. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
matters is your energy. Do
Yeah.
you carry King Leonidas's energy? Do you
Mm.
carry his vibe? Are you strong in mental body than him? And can you provide in another way, something that I generally provide? I know it's one of my seduction factors or attraction factors is I'm a charismatic. I'm
Hmm.
charismatic.
Hmm.
It's my, I will turn you on by mental stimulation.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
I will ignite your mind and
Totally.
tell you about things because I study the weirdest fucking shit in the world, right? I'm the best dinner guest. So my attraction, my buddy Christian, he's an MMA fighter, right? Here's his attraction. The guy walks in and he's like fucking this big. Everybody knows he's easily can kill anybody. Me, he'll just break me in half, right? I sparred with him one time and he lightly touched my leg. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I think I'm pretty good. He kicks trees for a living. I coach for a living, right? So I'm like, okay, but here's the deal. Come hear me speak. Come have a conversation, invite me over to dinner, and I'll steal the show.
Yeah.
Some other guys, your thing is your thing. You have to figure out what nature equipped you with. But here's what you should know: nature equipped everyone to get laid.
Hell yeah.
Right.
So we wouldn't be here otherwise.
That's right. Yeah. I was like, there's a whole family bloodline to prove that your bloodline could get laid. So don't freak out about, oh, I'm not the 6 foot guy. Neither am I. Right. I'm at the gym. There's this guy, he's a professional bodybuilder, won medals and shit. Right. I'm like my wife literally picked me up from the gym the other day and she's just like, that guy's fucking hot. I'm like, of course he's hot. Look at the fucking dude. He's like right out of 300, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I can't compete with that, but I bet you I give a better speech than he does.
I love that. That kind of confidence is so refreshing. I love it.
Because what are you gonna do? That's why authenticity is so important. Acceptance. Yeah. I've done so much work, and this is the stuff that I do with guys. I was like, don't try to be anyone else. Be you. And it's very difficult because we are often taught to get our validation from external things, right? But shouldn't I look like, Rocky, or shouldn't I look like that guy? I'm like, well, no, because I'll never look like that. Like, and for me to set that expectation for myself, I'll never feel worthy. I'll never feel like King Leonidas. Yeah. I have to lean into what makes me feel like that. And so for me, when I'm building my business and I'm training and I'm coaching and I'm leading seminars and rooms, I'm fucking king. Yeah. So therefore I do that. And therefore anybody who likes that vibe, here I am, right?
Those are your people. Yeah.
Those are your people. And, and you have to accept that. Not everyone's going to be attracted to you. People are going to say, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Like, that's where the whole dating thing, there's power in that. There's power in, in all that, and which on the online stuff we don't get because we don't have to deal with all of that. Somebody doesn't swipe to you, you never even know. Totally. If I swipe 100 girls and 3 of them swipe, I kind of forget that 97 said no. I didn't have to verbally hear it. I didn't have to go through it.
Because you didn't have to hear it. You didn't have to ever do anything to change
it. I didn't have to deal with it. I didn't have to become confident in myself to go at it again, We used to go out. I lived in Toronto, Canada, right? So, and there's big club district there and stuff. So this is my early 20s. We used to go out, and our buddy Harold, this guy was a riot, right? He was like all quantity, no quality. Let's just say, right? Not my style, but a great night out, right? Right. He would just girl after girl, and he would hear 100 no's. Nine out of 10 of us were going home. We were going home to a Mickey D's Big Mac and fries. Yeah. That guy was going home every night with somebody. Again, not my style, type of thing. But just from a strictly a principle of his ability, and he would literally say, look, you just have to go for it. It's fine. Just go for it. He, in his head, he's like, I what's the big deal?
Nothing bad happened here.
Yeah, nothing. You just go up to her, and he wasn't mean or not. He was really friendly, and he would be like, hey, what's up? Blah, blah. They'd be like, oh, get away from him. He'd be like, oh, you're lost. And then he would move on. And then he would be 2 seconds later, he'd be like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, fuck.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Not my style personally, but God love him for that ability to just handle rejection, not care so much what people, free himself in that level. It was quite refreshing. And so
I wanted to get I love this. I love all of your stories. They're so insightful. I think anecdotes are the best. I want to finish the 3 levels of sex, and then I wanted you to also close the loop on the Cleopatra Mark Anthony story. Because I needed to hear the end of that story.
Okay. So the 3 levels of sex. So there's no sex, And then the first level of sex is your obligation sex.
Yep.
We talked about that. Your second level of sex is your carnal sex.
Okay.
That's where we got into this conversation about attraction. This is where you're doing, so there's, I call it the 5 P's of masculinity. So I have a free guide called the Free Sex Transmutation Guide.
Cool.
And included it is a video called the 5 P's of masculinity. Right. So the 5 P's quickly are you a good provider? So that's your basics. Can you provide well? And I tell guys, if your bank account isn't right yet, if like you don't have those basics yet, don't, like, now's not the time. Get off Tinder, get off plenty of, like, get off that shit. Get your shit together, right? Like, if you're single and do it, if you're in a relationship, then you're gonna have to just do it simultaneously. Tough luck. But if you happen to be single and you're got that opportunity, man, just handle your, like, really get your shit together. And that way, when you bring in a woman into your life, you're bringing her into a stable situation. You're going to add so much to her life, and you're going to have women, you'll have options because you'll have a stable situation. Yep. So provide, then protect. Protecting means, again, I'm not a big dude. I'm probably not the guy who is going to, like, be throwing blows that much, right? Like, let's be real here, right? I get my buddy Christian to come down and do that. So here is how I provide as that guy. So if you're that guy who's like got like freaking 30-inch thick biceps and stuff, God love you, do your thing. One way to show providing is straight muscles, right?
Or protecting.
You're protecting. Straight muscles. Hit the gym. Now, maybe if you're a smaller dude like me, hit the gym still and have physique. Be athletic, show that you also can hold your own and that you can show, like, good weight. And again, this means also you're going to grow sharper in mind. Like, there's so many benefits for lifting weights, no matter where you're starting from. Just get into it, right? Or take up some physical activity. Before I got into the gym, I was big into yoga because it was like a good starting point for me, right? From going from couch potato to, like, okay, I'm going to, like, do this whole masculine thing. Yeah. I started with yoga because it was just getting my body moving and going and, like, and building some foundation. So wherever you're at, get started. The other way that you protect, though, is, like, you're not looking for trouble, but don't be a pushover. Yeah. Have an opinion. Yeah. Stand up for things. Be willing to, don't send your wife, like, to go fight the principal at school that's mistreating your child. Like, you go, you say, I'm going to go talk to this principal, and you can do that very kindly and intelligently. I'm not saying you walk in there and, rage out. No, go in there like very calm and handle it. You don't have to be Andrew Tate. You don't have to be some, like, barbarian or something like this.
I love it. It's a great perspective. Yeah.
Handle it, but you do have to handle it. Right? Yeah. I'm not the barbarian type. I've had my barbarian moments for sure. They've been, I think I told you about the yelling match between me and the education minister on the street. Like, I've gotten in people's faces and all that stuff. But generally, that's not my character. It's not how I like to operate. And I would prefer to do things in a King Leonidas way. To me, a kingly way is actually always looking for, how can we create unity? How can we take this conflict and turn it into a platform where we can strengthen? Many good relationships come from conflict resolution. Yeah. So that's another way that you can protect. You protect by also setting up, like, insurance policies, so you're insured if something was happened to you. Totally. Like, you protect by having, I've got $1 million in the bank account, babe. Don't worry if recession is here. I'm protecting you. I've got you. That's right.
So amazing, like, just sexually too, because I will say, every time I've heard a man, no matter who he is, like how old he is, and he says the phrase, "she's the boss," I know they're not having sex. Just, that's been my experience. Like, I know they're not having sex, and they haven't in a long time.
No, well, she
Yeah,
might be, but she's on Ashley Madison.
exactly.
Right,
I hear
right,
you.
right.
Yeah. So
But
it's very important what you're saying. Yeah.
no, 100%, 100%. It's like have those things in place so you don't. So there's the raw, like the animal, but remember the same. The world is different. Yeah, you don't need to necessarily go hunt the boar. Fine, but you do need to have your life insurance worked out so that she knows. Like this was a big thing for myself and Sarah. Like Sarah's with me. I'm an entrepreneur, right? I sell, we eat. I don't sell. Like it's like
Yeah.
right. So it's like hey, well, I went and I insured myself, right? So, like, if something was to happen to me today, Sarah's bank rolled for at least a year to, like mend, heal, and then figure out how she's going to move on. And you know
Yeah.
what? We've talked about plans. What if something was to happen to me? Well, here's a plan laid out. Like, that's protecting.
Yeah. It's huge.
Protecting is being, you could just chalk it up to, are you taking care of your people in a responsible way? Are you the king of your world? A real king doesn't say, what do my people give me? The king, a real king, which is something we lack in today's politicians and leaders. They're exploiting people. They're like it's a money-making thing for them. But a real king, a real warrior is going, I'm here to protect my people. So my people have what they need?
Yeah.
So you protect, you provide,
Generosity.
generosity. Yeah, you're generous. You're actually give a real leadership, real masculine is servant.
Hmm.
Is like, but a leadership of leading to protect, to serve, to be like, all right, like, are my people protected? And can I enhance their life? Can I give them their life? And as men, that goes back to our psychology of we feel most fulfilled when we're giving.
Totally.
I love it when I am able, like, I'm like, you know what? I just went to the store and I just bought something for Sarah just out of random.
Yeah.
And as a man, there is like great pride in being able to like do that. I have two cats. Love my cats. All right. So sorry
Yay.
if people are cat people.
I have a cat too.
Okay. Well, this was not too long ago. This was like a month and a half ago. This is like fresh. My cat almost died, like got sick, ate something, got super sick, got backed up like shit, like from asshole to belly, like totally like. And so we go to the vet, and it's like 1,500. Go do it. Boom.
Yeah.
Come back. Boom. Another. Go ahead. Do it. Boom. She comes back. I don't know how much we spent. 5, 6, 7 grand.
Yeah.
Cat's healthy, fine. Got worth every cent of it. Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Here's the selfish thing that you should know about a man's psychology. I felt like a king because I could give my cat the best treatment. This cat got the spa treatment. Like when she's like, we could do. I was like, just yes, like
Throw it all in.
throw it all in. Give him the. I want him to have the best pillow because he had to stay at the hospital. I was like, I want it right, right. The point is this: is that it doesn't matter whether it's for a man that is huge to know that I could show up for my family in a time where most people statistically a $2,000 crisis most people cannot handle. Like they have to borrow money or dip into something. That we were able to just handle that, no problem, keep going, like life was like fine, like there was no financial stretch. That's way of providing and protecting.
Yeah.
I protected my people there, this one being an animal people,
Yeah.
my cat there. As a man, when you can do that, you will feel a healthy self-confidence about how you showed up in life.
So
Because
good.
I will tell you, if I could not do that, if it came down to dollars and cents, I would be like, probably like, that would live in my consciousness for a while, at least, I could say. Because I would be like, how is I not like set up to provide and protect? So our inherent madness pressure that you talked about would be there. Are you set up? Okay, so provide, protect, produce means this: advance.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing sexier than an advancing man.
Nope.
And a man who's what, and women can know, man, they can tell that guy's going somewhere
Yeah.
or not.
He's on his path.
He's on his path. Yeah. That people say, oh, I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not. I'm like, you don't have to be, but can she see that you're going there?
Totally.
She'll latch on. It's just like no, women are so forgiving and kind, in my opinion, to
Mm.
like there's this whole idea that my experience of women has not been like one where like, oh, you're not good enough or these things. It's more like wow, like yeah, I can see you're not, maybe you're not the millionaire yet, or you're not the whatever. It's not about that, but what they can see is you're expanding, you're growing. And what that subtly does too is what you end up providing is stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Life doesn't become stagnant when you're an expansive man, because you're expanding. Guess what's expanding with it? The experiences you can provide.
Totally.
Right? All of a sudden, you don't go to the same restaurant. Now you're going to different restaurants because you can, and you're not just ordering salad. You can order what you want instead
Yeah.
of just like what you can afford.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You could go to the better. You could go to the better show. Next time you go on vacation, maybe you get the first class. Now you think, well, I'm not materialistic. Fuck materialistic, not materialistic. The fact is you are able to provide a higher quality of experience,
Sure. That's it.
and that's going to be attractive.
And the
Why would?
feminine loves experience.
What's that
Yeah.
Cyndi Lauper song? Girls just want
Just
to
want to
have
have
fun.
fun.
I tell so many guys, they're like, what should I say? It's like, don't say nothing. Why don't you just get on the dance floor and have a good time?
Totally.
Stop worrying about whether she likes you or not, and stop just having a good time. I was like, you never heard Cyndi Lauper? She literally gave you the secret. Girls just want to have fun. I was like, you want to get laid. That's your problem. Why don't you have a good time? And guess what? She'll be happy to open up to you because you're in that vibe and mood.
Totally.
Right? So provide, protect, produce. And then I'm like forgetting my own things. Provide, protect, produce, and then like I call it power. Power means the ability to do. Have the ability to do.
Yeah.
Right? Have the abilities to get things done. Be a guy that people can bring problems to you, and you have the ability to solve them. Like think of the mob boss, right? Like the Tony Soprano archetype. Everybody brings him his problems. That's what he does. That's why he's loved by his community.
Yeah.
Because literally you go to that guy and you're like, I have a problem. And he goes, what's your problem? This is the problem. And he solves the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he's the king, right? That's what a king does. A king solves problems. A man solves problems. So for men, when we are not solving problems and we're avoiding problems, right? Like when the problem is bigger than us, what you're subtly saying to those around you, whether it's your employees or your woman or your kids or whoever, what you're saying is life is bigger than me. Well, she's going to like the guy who's bigger than life. The guy who has more energy than life's problems is attractive. So you have to be powerful. And then the last P is a provocateur. Meaning, can you still provoke emotion and experience in your relationship? And most guys can't do this after a long time. Like in long-term relationships, most guys don't do it anymore. And that's one of the things. Can you still provoke her? Can you still flirt with her? Can you still, like, and when you're confident, you just naturally do it. But it's like, can you still provoke emotion? Right? Can you turn her on? Can you tease her still? Right?
Yeah.
Can you get her warmed up and then push her away? And then can you provoke her? Or are you just,
yeah.
can you play? Yeah. Can you play? Are you playful?
Yeah.
Right? Girls just want to have fun. Can you play with her? Can you take her on a dynamic experience where she feels a little bit like, I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm liking it, right? I don't know what he's going to do or what he's going to say next, but it kind of turns me on.
Yeah.
That there's an uncertainty about
it. Totally.
So can you provoke? So if you master those 5 Ps, then if you're in a long-term marriage or relationship, you guys are going to have dynamic fun. You're going to have tons of connection there. And if you're a single guy, you're going to be very attractive because you're going to be able to provide experience, protect those things. And you'll notice that most of that happens outside the bedroom.
Yeah.
Your ability to provide is how you're showing up in your career and your business, and are you advancing? Your ability to have power generally comes from your integrity, getting
Yeah.
things done that you say you're going to get done. And so therefore you start to feel really confident about, when I say I can do it, I'm going to do it, because that's just, my word is my bond,
Love
right?
it.
When you're protecting, you're working out, you feel strong, or you handle like some problems that come up. You know, you've got some safety nets in place for your people. You feel good as a man. This is what men are missing in the modern narrative about masculinity.
Totally.
It's like if you don't do those things, what you're trading is your own fulfillment. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm saying this as a guy who didn't have none of that shit in place.
Totally.
None of that stuff.
I
And never even contemplated that as a reason of why I wasn't like performing the best in my life. Like, had no idea that one was interlinked with another.
why you were anxious, why like
Yeah.
the alcohol and like food and all of that
Yeah.
stuff and all the it's just all like we have everything we need in the natural world. So now we just need to learn how to use it. So this leads me to, I would love to kind of finish up around this like final stage of sex. So you were talking about no sex, then there's level 2, which is
Carnal.
obligation and carnal.
Yeah.
So there's 0, which is no sex,
Yeah.
level 1, which is obligation, level 2, which is carnal, and then
level 3 is what we could call sacred sexuality.
okay.
Right.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah, that's when you move into like charisma or sexual alchemy, where you're not just like having sex, but you're making love, you're exchanging intimacy, you are exchanging a pleasure. This type of sex is, first of all, it's generally, like, from a physical perspective, slower.
Yeah.
It is generally much more vulnerable. Like, a lot of guys can't eye gaze. That's why even at the gym, like, I make it a practice that if someone locks eyes with me, that I don't move my eyes.
I love
Even though
that.
my natural response to be like, right, I don't. And I'll even smile back to acknowledge, yeah, I'm like, yes, we've locked eyes. I see you. And it's fine, right? Like, it's like, it doesn't even have to be sexual, right? It's just
totally,
you look at someone, right? You know what I mean? It's not a big deal, right? Type of thing. So it's like, uh this type of sex bonds you. This type of sex creates a deep friendship outside the bedroom, which is really cool. So when me and Sarah started practicing, like, Carezza's on, and I have a video, a whole video, an article about how to do Carezza. Are you familiar with this practice?
I'm not. No, I'm going to link all this stuff also to the bottom of the episode.
Carezza is, it comes from the Italian or Latin root caress. And basically it's almost little to no movement type of sex, where you sync your breathing together. So, you know, like, a good position to practice is like have her like straddle, right? So, and then you're actually like eye gazing, caressing each other. So lots of touching, lots of intimacy in that way. Very slow movement. And when you practice about 20-30 minutes of Carezza, you can have very deep, like, spiritual experiences. Like, they're in the video, because my wife actually films my YouTube videos, right? So in the video, I was explaining my experience of Carezza with Sarah, and then you can hear her in the background saying, like, it's like I fell into you. Like, she describes the where she's like, it's like I just fell into you. There was no separation between us. This is a very deep type of connection. And when you have this type of sex, like real love making, then this type of sex actually is the type of sex that has biologically benefits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This type of sex has psychological and physiological benefits of health, longevity, hormones being replenished, real love being exchanged. And not only can you just have tremendous experiences and pleasure on a physical level like this, which most guys, when they hear this, feel like a bit bored. Like, this tends to appeal more to women. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And a lot of guys are like, Like I'm just looking to like, let's go back to the carnal one. That's the
Right.
porn sex. And
Right.
that's why porn is generally geared
Towards
to men
men.
because that plays a lot on our visual animalistic, like just raw, right?
Mm,
This plays more to our heart though and our
mm.
minds, which is also as men we should acknowledge is equally as important. So this type of sex often sounds a bit boring to men depending on where they're at in their own, let's say, sexual maturity or what
Yeah.
how they understand it. But I do challenge every man to get into this. Like myself and Sarah, we have a mixture between level 2 and 3,
Yeah.
right? We still have lots of like bend me over, fuck me type of sex, right? Type of thing. Even that non-ejaculatory though most of the time
Mm,
right. And then we have what we call purposeful time of sex, where
beautiful.
this is like our time. This isn't getting wild. This is about us exchanging circulating energy and being with each other and feeling connected.
Hmm.
And what's amazing about that sex is a couple things. So yes, there's physical benefits. The benefits outside the bedroom of your relationship are incredible. Like you feel giddy after. Like two
Mm.
kids, like we had Careza and we literally had stopped having sex and just ended up talking for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And that was fine.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
not like I don't want to. It was like it was just like it's an incredible, you feel like a kid,
It's like
oh
more
my God.
connection. It goes deeper
It
right
goes
away.
deeper right away.
Yeah.
You go so much deeper where you're friends. And that's where the most vulnerable connections can happen. That's when you become a team. That's when you can be like share. So that's why I could tell my wife is just outside. She heard me talking about other women not being hot. Notice I said all of that without nothing
Totally.
because I can say all that.
Well, this is what creates long-lasting union. This is the opposite of divorce. This is how
Mhm.
people get closer and stronger.
Yeah, you're real. We're real with each other.
Yeah,
Sarah can be like, the guy's hot. And I'm
totally.
not running off to the, oh, yeah, or don't look at another man, or, dude, like that jealousy is like the biggest turnoff because it's
Yeah,
insecurity, which is like the opposite of confidence, right?
yeah,
So this type of sex has tremendous benefit for your
yeah,
relationship. So I recommend, like, when I'm working with guys who are maybe in sexless marriages or just the marriage is going through a rough time,
yeah,
like Careza, like you need to spend candles on, lights off, like, or dim light, like romantic time together.
yeah.
Romance, not I want to bang you. Romance, love,
Right,
connection,
right.
getting into that space. And then you'll actually notice if you do that, the carnal stuff is actually there because when 2, 3 days, 4 days after that type of sex, you're still connected to your
Totally,
partner. And now there's like, I'm thinking about you. You're at work,
totally.
but I'm thinking about you. Before I was just thinking about the kids. Now I'm thinking about you, right? Because you're connected. This is the bonding power of sex. You're energetically
Mm,
connected. You can't wait to spend that time
mm.
together. You can't wait to, because that feeling is so good. It's, you want it more, you crave it more.
And
So now guys get more of what they want too.
and you can't get here if you're constantly
No,
masturbating.
no.
And
There's
I
no,
feel like
there's
we've come full circle now.
yeah, yeah. You can't get there because first of all, if you're watching porn, all you think sex is the carnal type,
Yeah,
and she's like, that's an actor,
totally.
right? Like your actual woman is like, okay, maybe sometimes or whatever, but I want
Sure.
intimacy more than
But I
anything.
won't want that unless we connect first.
That's right.
That's the
That's what
key.
guys got to understand. I
Yeah,
was like, she's more than happy to. Women are way more sexual than men. Once a woman's
totally.
turned on, like most guys are like, oh shit, like, oh, back up, like, whoa, whoa. But like once a
Totally.
woman, because once you boil water, like that shit boils, right? Like, so it's like,
It's
don't like,
expansive.
it's expansive, so whatever you're doing will expand. So I was like, but the problem is you want to skip steps. You
Yeah,
don't want to give her what she's craving, which is you, your presence,
yeah.
your attention, your desire. Like, desire her during sex. Don't just try to get yourself off. That's what happens when, so in sexual alchemy, I teach men to not make their sex ejaculated centric, because what it does is it puts you into a space where you're really there to serve her, to please her. And you're like desiring her and giving her all your attention. And I was like, you don't have to do nothing. She will, by her nature, will want to reciprocate it back to you.
Totally.
Like she will literally be like, my turn now, right? Like, okay, you just lie down and or whatever, right? I will take over. And then you're going to get exactly what you were looking for, and that's why that type of sex for guys is so fulfilling, and for women, because it doesn't just stimulate us on a physical level.
Yeah.
It connects us on an emotional, mental, and ultimately an energetic or spiritual level. We are literally connected. Like you are my other half type of thing.
Wow. Which is literally what men also desire.
Of course, it's what we all desire, to be complete, right? It's a spiritual concept, to be complete. So spiritually, the idea of being complete, or in yoga, union with God, or that is a spiritual completion. We express that in a material way, in a way of the world of duality, through man-woman interaction, or masculine feminine unity. So it's the deepest desire. That's why it's our deepest motivation. And so with that type of sex, not only can women experience tremendous amounts of pleasure and orgasms, and men can experience non-ejaculatory orgasms, energetic orgasms, by opening up their energy. So there's some training there involved, but there's this potential that men can experience these amazing non-ejaculatory energetic orgasms, which he can also pulsate through his partner. So it becomes a very like healing type of journey. And then outside the bedroom, you're connected. And then outside the relationship, now you're full of love and vibrancy and connection and enthusiasm, because all your sexual energy is stimulated, which is your natural charisma, your power, your motivation, intelligence. It all comes, like, think about, guys have literally become so intelligent to get laid, type of thing. Like,
so true.
Right? So intelligent to get laid. Now you use all that intelligence, get paid. Now you use all that intelligence and you direct it to your art. Kanye West talks about his porn and sex addiction, and that's why he's so successful in music, because he's like, I took it and I redirected it all to music. 50 Cent talks about he does celibacy breaks. Sting talks about how he would have non-ejaculatory sex, and that would feed his creativity. So when he would write songs about passion, all of that was coming out of him. When Steve Jobs, it's documented, his partner said he would pull out, he would have non-ejaculatory sex, and he would say, that's for my wealth, creativity, and power. He poured his sexual energy into Apple. He poured, when you understand this power of transmutation that Napoleon Hill thinks about in Think and Grow Rich, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, chapter 11, he basically says, unless a man learns how to transmute, transfer, or alchemize his sexual prowess, energy, and genius to higher applications, getting money, building a business, all that stuff, he will pretty much live the life of an animal. He will only do the bare minimum to survive. Only a man in his animal consciousness, completely dictated by his balls, will only do the bare minimum to survive. So he can do the bare minimum. He can watch porn. A man in higher consciousness, he's connected with his heart. He's connected with his brain. He's got ambitions outside the bedroom. Ambitions to either be king or CEO, or to make a difference, or to be a great father, or to lead the high school basketball team to their next championship. Like it doesn't always have to be at the level of Gandhi. He's got ambition to make his home a beautiful home, right? Like, that's all sexy and attractive. Right.
That was just a whole mic drop moment. I am like super blown away by you. I love your energy. I feel like 2 hours like went by in like a snap.
Oh shit,
I'm like
2 hours.
Freaking blown away by everything you've shared. Okay, I have one final question, and then we will wrap it up. And then I want you to let everyone know where they can find you and what you've got coming up in so that they can sign up. All the gentlemen that have heard this are probably like, I need to find this dude.
Totally.
But what like drives your passion? I'm like so curious. Just as you were talking, I was like, this man is so lit up about this. Like, what drives that?
okay, so I'm gonna give you that answer. I'm like, nothing ever simple with me, right? I was like, I'll give you that answer in three compartments.
Okay.
First of all, the honest truth,
Yeah.
to get laid. This is my weapon. I'm
Mm,
charismatic.
yeah.
I feel like you're into me. I feel like whoever's listening to this at this level, we are in a way having mental sex. And
Yes.
if I was to, and most people aren't that honest, right? To be like, that's
I
just, so
love
that's,
that.
yeah, that's one level. One level is just a raw, what drives me. I know that when I'm out here doing podcasts and giving meetings and doing seminars, that my chances of getting laid increase. So I know that on a very animalistic level, I'm driven like every other man by his balls. Okay, so that's at one level. But here's what hopefully makes me different, or what I'm teaching other men. And I say hopefully because, like, you just never want to sound too cocky with these things. But anyways, the other part that drives me is my heart. So I genuinely care about people. I genuinely care that people live good lives. We want to give the world what we also want.
Mhm.
Like, we as human beings project our hearts or consciousness onto the world. And
Yeah.
I genuinely care when I see someone struggling, because I know I've struggled and I know how painful that is as a guy. I know what that does to your ego. It's even getting emotional because I'm reflecting in myself and I'm like, I know what it feels like to feel like you're not capable or like
Mm,
you're not stepping up. And so when you're in touch with your own pain, you recognize that, well, you want to solve it, and when you see it in others, you want to solve it. I know what your problem is. I understand where you're at and I can help you. So I just have a genuine wanting to help people. And then the third level is like a spiritual thing where I actually feel like a calling to this work. Like, this is not something that I like, when I grow up, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a sexual alchemist and teach men to have non-ejaculatory, like, there's no class or career path for that, right? So
mm.
I feel like through my own journey, I feel like, uh, I'll call it God because I'm comfortable with that. I will say, my man, God has put into my life this mission and path, and he's given me enough strength and power and enthusiasm to be somebody to convey it, because this is it rocks the paradigm of the way people are living.
Mm.
And so there's certain personality types that would make it like where people could kind of accept it if they heard it, and I just happen to be one of those personality types, and I know that about myself. So
Oh,
I feel like it's just my path too. So one is like destiny, one is to get laid, and one is because I care about people. And I just use all three: balls, heart,
heart,
brain.
brain.
Yeah. I'm not telling you that I don't have selfish motive to it. I'm not telling you that I don't know that this makes me look hot. I know it. I do it. I know it. Like, I'm very aware, not to everyone. Some people are like, this guy's fucking insane. Like,
Totally.
someone would look at me and be like, this is the last thing I want, is a guy like.
Totally.
But
Totally.
some women will be like, this is exactly
Exactly
what
what
I
I
want,
want.
right? So I know that, and I'm very aware of that motivation. And then I've been fortunate in my life to have great gurus and teachers and mentors that said, and you want to live a good life holistically, if you use, Napoleon Hill talks about the same thing. He says, a man who's just super, so I'm highly sexually charged. And so, meaning like, I'm a horny dude, right? And that is both a gift. That is a gift if it's controlled. Fire
Mhm.
is a gift if it's controlled.
Mhm.
Fire is very dangerous if it's not controlled.
Yeah.
So Jordan Peterson has a saying. I think we talked about this maybe on our first call, right? And I was like,
Yeah. The danger
Jordan,
thing.
yeah, yeah. Be dangerous and then controlled. And it's kind of like, he was like challenged on that, like, well, why be dangerous? Like, and he's like, because you're like, the virtue is born. And he talked about martial artists understanding this. Like, when you know, as a martial artist, like, I could totally, like, my buddy Christian is, first of all, he is has a deep faith. We have very deep spiritual conversation. This guy's an MMA fighter. This guy, for a living, tears people's heads apart.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is what he does for a living, right? And yet the guy, like, is like, yeah, I don't really like to fight. and because there's a part of him that he's like, well, it's not about fighting, it's about growth. Like, it's for him, it's so much more than I get into a ring and fight, right? There's this whole thing that's going on psychologically. So the point is that what a guy like him, he knows he could, 9 out of 10 guys, not only does he have the muscle mass, and he has the skill set to, like, just rip you apart,
Yeah.
right? Because most of us are not trained, even if we're big guys, we're not trained to the level he is about how to rip you apart, right? This guy is trained to kill you, right? So he knows that. And yet he holds a very, like, peaceful, loving energy. So he has virtue there. There's a virtue that's born, that he's harmonized chaos, wild, I'm going to just brutalize everybody, his animal body, and his spiritual, his consciousness. He's harmonized the two. He's made it work. So I have my saying is, like, a man should be horny.
Yeah.
And then harmonize it.
Yeah.
Control it, dude. Control it. Don't let it be controlled, because if somebody else, whether a woman or pornography or something else, is controlling it, you are a slave to that. And that's what women don't like. They don't like that you're a slave to them. It's not a turn on, because it doesn't show that you're the leader, the strong. You don't have strong masculine qualities. So as men, for me, what drives me is what drives every man on the planet: to get laid.
Yeah, that's
women.
facts.
It's a fact. Women drive me. If I know that there are going to be beautiful women around, yes, I tend to dress better. Yes, I tend to, you know what, maybe I should shave up a little bit, maybe that type of thing, right? So it drives me to be better from a very basic animalistic way. Then, with consciousness, with education, with wisdom, right, with mentorship, we lift that up to, I also have a heart. I care about people. That's cool. It's not being not masculine to care about people.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah, I give a shit about people. I care. I care about people. I care about whether people are living good lives or not. And that drives me. And then I care about my relationship or my duty to the whole, to that I live a life that I believe personally, if I live it well and do my duty, that I am actually rewarded for that. And I'm not even talking about after lives or anything, or heaven. I'm talking about in this life. When I do my duty, nature rewards me with opportunities, with friends, meeting you. Like, my life is expanding. I'm meeting new people all the time, connecting. I see all that as reciprocation of, good job, you're doing well. Because I didn't have that. There was a time that a woman like you would have never wanted to interview me, because I would have had nothing to offer or say. Now I have something to offer and say. Now I get to meet more people. So life tends to reward the advancing man with more opportunity and higher quality opportunities in all areas.
Nakula, I can feel your heart so much. Like, I can feel your presence. I can feel your passion for this. And honestly, like, it's like lit me up. Like, you guys, it's been 2 hours and I don't even notice how much time has gone by. And it really lights me up, everything that you're doing, like the impact you're having. You know, for me, like, just like you said, we usually want to teach and help people do something that we want ourselves. And for me, it's like this, like, divine union between men and women that I, like, feel called to help support. And so what you're doing is just supporting that same mission in such a beautiful way. And thank you.
Thank you so much. And what you're doing, like I said, I'm a huge fan. I think anybody right now, where the world is at, and I say the world, but I'm really talking the Western world to be like,
Yeah.
to really clarify that, because I don't know how, it is in other cultures, but I know here the way that we're working right now, the work that you're doing is so needed. The work that I'm doing is so needed. I would even say, to claim to say, it's the most important work right now on the planet, or at least in the Western hemisphere of the planet, is re-educating and reigniting healthy sexual expression, which I
Mm,
personally believe is not going to come from a religious sort of way, even though there will be spiritual elements to it for
sure.
sure. And it will not come from the political spectrum, even though there will be political elements to it, right? So it's like it's marrying those and
Yeah.
saying, hey, it's going to take just guys standing up and going, wait a sec, wait a sec, wait a sec. Like something is not
Right.
correct with this, and it's happening. Like there's groups like Sacred Sons, and there's all
Hmm.
kinds of groups that are being born.
Yeah.
What I'm doing with the guys and stuff. Like it's just like there's just so many people, so many great people, and
Yeah.
there's different people doing it. Like you got like say like an Andrew Tate. Okay,
Yeah.
Andrew Tate is so interesting because in one hand I'm a huge fan, in another hand I don't agree with everything
Yeah.
Andrew Tate says.
Fair
But
enough.
I'm more of a fan than I'm not, because I I appreciate it takes because I appreciate things happen in phases, right? Like
Yeah.
it takes a guy like Andrew Tate at first to just go, you know what? Fuck you.
So
I'm going to get just I'm
swing it
just gonna
all to the other side.
totally.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes that. It takes someone like a Tate. So I believe like he's like empowered to do what he's doing, because it takes someone like him to just be like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm a man and I like to drive fast cars, drink vodka, and bang girls, and blah 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 blah. And so while I'm not that guy, I'm
Sure.
not a Tate
And
guy,
most aren't.
and that most aren't, right? I'm
Yeah.
not that guy. I appreciate what he's doing. And then I can now bring and that's what's happening. See, to me, the whole manosphere, the whole
Yeah.
masculine movement, the whole thing, it's evolving now,
Yeah.
where there are new voices like myself and stuff that are saying, yeah, well, I'm with Tate. I'm so with Andrew Tate. And, let's be real, right?
Let's
Like
be real here. Let's
yeah,
find our middle ground.
let's find our ground. Am I Andrew Tate? No. Am I aggressive like him? No. I'm not a fighter like him. I'm not like he was a kickboxer, right? I'm like I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. I'm a speaker. I'm much more in my intellectual mind.
Sure.
So I'll bring that to the table, and then there'll be some other guy who's going to do his thing, and he's going to bring a whole, like I've got a bunch of other guys that are doing very similar work, and we're all doing it in our own way. So I always tell guys, maybe you hear it from me for the first time, but maybe you're like, I don't fully resonate with
Right.
Nakula. That's fine. There's lots of guys out there doing great work. Find a teacher that resonates with you, but find a teacher, because
Mm,
as men, that's something that we're not doing is any more rite of passages. Like as men, remember, again, when we were in tribes, we would spend most of our time with the elders of that tribe,
totally.
learning these things, and we would ask those questions. Hey, I'm getting together with that girl tonight, right? And the older guys would be like, all right, let's sit down, buddy, let's have the conversation. And back then it wasn't like just make sure you bang her. It was like, look, having a woman is a responsibility, right?
Totally.
Are you ready for that commitment? Are you
Totally.
ready? You're gonna sleep with her tonight. What if she got pregnant? Are you ready for that? Like there was more intelligent
Ownership.
conversations and
Yeah.
ownership happening at those in our more ancient cultures and
Mm,
ancient ways of living. There was more fatherly type figures where men could have, like, I couldn't believe this. This is how sad this is. How many guys I've talked to where literally they're like, and they're in their 20s, 30s, going, yeah, I've never actually been able to talk about this to anybody.
I know.
And I'm
Breaks my
like,
heart.
yeah, what do you need to talk about? Yeah, so like, what do you do?
My
Like,
heart.
or where? And I'm like, oh shit, like, okay, let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny, and so it's just like the men are hurting,
Yeah.
but it's difficult for a man to admit it.
Yeah.
But once he admits it, he's on fire because now he's vulnerable, so his heart lights up. Because
Yeah.
vulnerability will light up your heart,
Yeah.
right? And you'll be like, it's cool. I'm cool, man. I'm cool. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I
And then
can
he
just,
finds all those other men, and then he finds himself in brotherhood
yeah,
circles, and then he
that's
starts
right.
to find fulfillment, and then
I
he
used to think I was the only one. Like
uh,
I remember practicing semen retention for the first time, and I'm like, oh, I must be like nobody's doing this shit. Then I realized, man, there's a whole movement. Like I'm not, it's not a one person show because it's an awakening that's happening. Like, man, I was just listening to this guy. I think he lives in Japan.
okay.
Um, and he was talking about the samurai way. He's like a coach, right? He was on
Okay.
YouTube, and he was talking about the samurai way, and then he all boiled it down to a man has to be able to control his sexuality and
Ugh,
blah blah blah, right? And I'm just randomly watching this video that caught my
yeah.
attention, and I'm like, you see, it's born. Now of course I know like Big Brother's listening, so they're sending me things that I like, right? So blah blah blah,
Sure.
so there's a feedback loop happening. I'm fully aware of that, but overall, it's like here's this guy in Japan talking about very similar things. So
Yeah.
a guy I've never met of, heard of till 2 hours ago, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you see, it's happening
It's
where there
happening.
is a swing back, and but there needs to be like a lot of education. There's a lot of work there. Like in my life, I suspect that in my lifetime we will only lay the groundwork down for future generations, and I believe that future generations will need this work more than us, anyways.
That's
Like
true. Because
the
they'll be
market
kind
is
of
growing.
in the digital sphere fully,
That's right.
and we weren't. So we still have access to our bodies and our like
That's right.
connection to earth.
Yeah.
And some kids that are born now don't right now.
They don't. They have no, their life is social media.
Yeah.
All of their value, all of their perceptions of life are being totally shaped by their experience on social media, including their sexuality. And we are going to see massive amounts of issues
Mm,
because of that as time goes. We already are,
they already are.
and but it's not being talked about as much. But again, the whole masculine movement is really bringing light, and I think that's why No Fap is becoming mainstream. And then, of course, now it's being hit harder politically. And
Totally.
here's the political side. Now, all of a sudden, like you said, articles about me, misogynistic, unscientific, bunch of right wing guys, a bunch of fascist guys, racist guys. They're the ones who do all this
Right.
stuff.
Anti-woman guys, like,
Anti-woman men, incel. I was called an incel so many times. My
oh,
wife always
this is
laughs.
all
She's like,
so pro-woman. It breaks my heart.
she's like my wife. She's like, what gets me the most is when they call you an incel,
Yeah.
because she's like, they don't fucking know. Like I'm
Totally.
like
You're having so much like sacred sex.
yeah. I was like, it's laughable, but I've been called all that stuff, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's,
because when you know it's not true, you
yeah.
laugh, right? You're
Yeah.
just like, wow, like that's how dark, that's how much we don't understand the subject, or
Yeah.
how sexuality is really influencing
Yeah.
us.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Best place to go is nakuladas.com, because that is like the hub to link to. You could
Okay.
take the free sex transmutation guide. You can connect with me directly, or you can find me on YouTube, and Instagram are my biggest platforms. My YouTube channel is a great place to just like take a deep dive,
Cool.
because I don't know how many freaking videos on that thing. But it just has, I talk about it from many different levels: spiritual,
Yeah.
biological, emotional, how it applies to money. Like I talk about it in relationship with so many things, so
Yeah.
you can get a really great deep understanding of how it works at different levels, and the power of sexual alchemy, the power of understanding and developing a healthy, positive expression of your sexuality.
Do you do more individual coaching or do you do group stuff as well?
I have both. So I
Okay.
do I do a program. So nobody gets into. So I created a school called Nakula Training Grounds,
Okay.
which is a full school teaching men how to master themselves in the bedroom. So how to quit porn, how to quit masturbating, how to last as long as you want in the bedroom, experience higher types of sexual experiences, non-ejaculatory orgasms, how to become more powerful in the bedroom, and then using all that, how to translate that into. And then, so my school has two specialties. So everybody takes the four basic pillars, which develop you as a man and as a leader. So it doesn't matter. It's universally applicable because it's just you developing. And then you put it into either a specialty of designing your relationship the way you want it, or up leveling your business acumen. And so the way to get involved is you reach out to me, connect with me, and then you go through a process of making sure that the program is a right fit. So we don't accept everybody into the program because the program is quite intense. It's 6 months, and the expectation is I'm really looking for guys who are serious and are ready to up level. If you're still in a phase where you're like, I'm not sure if that's for me, then start with the free stuff, get well acquainted with it with me, and then make that decision. But if you're like, no, I've heard enough. Some guys, they only need to hear 10 minutes and they know exactly where they know like, exactly the value.
I need to up level. I need to change my life. Like, oh my God. And then from the female side, I'm just like, this is so good for us. Thank you for doing this work.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I fucking talk too much.
But, I love it.
But I'll tell you, I was sitting in a temple in Toronto, and there was this discussion about men-women roles, and this was before I got heavily deep in. This is kind of like the start of my journey. And I sat with dinner with a few women, and I said, how do you feel when you hear things like women should be submissive to men? How do you feel because I'm not resonating with some of these teachings or some of these ideas? It doesn't seem like, equality. And it was women who explained to me why a man should lead, why he should step up, what it does for them. So it was women that started me big time on this journey, because they were the ones who said to me, actually, let me give you an education about what it means to be a man and why it's so important that you be a man for us. And they were super honest, like they were just so brutally honest about like even themselves. Like one woman's like, I don't want to make decisions when I'm on my period. That's the truth. She's like, yes, I am super emotional and lose my logic. So I'm looking for stability. I'm looking for these things, right? And of course, they were giving me different examples and a big conversation. This is an hour, 2 hour conversation. I'm breaking down into some tidbits. But the overall inspiring aspect was that it was actually women who said to me, no, this is the correct way. What we're teaching here is the correct way, but it's misunderstood in today's modern society.
So beautiful. I just want to be able to quit my job and like have lots of babies and like paint and like for it to be okay.
Anyway. Yeah, totally. Look. I mean, like, yeah, it's fine. This is fine. Yeah, it's what many women want, but in a way, almost like even women themselves feel like they shouldn't want that. Like, that seems like I don't want to, I need to have a career and be my boss babe and that stuff. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that. It's like you want to have your own money and make your own way and be boss babe and stuff. Cool. But in the relationship, there is a masculine feminine dynamic. And a lot of women that take on those heavy masculine energies, they find themselves not in very healthy or even in relationships and feel an emptiness about it. They right. And I've talked to many powerful women who are like, no, I totally, like, once I learn more about masculine, feminine energy, I recognize why my marriage is sexless.
Totally.
I'm not, they'll admit that they're like, I'm not very feminine in my way. So
I love it. This has been beautiful. Thank you again. I'm just so happy that we're in touch now, and just like, this has been amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. Until next time, everybody.